Welcome to episode 280 of the Xbox 2 podcast. I am one of your hosts, the birthday boy. Well, belated birthday, actually. Birthday was yesterday. Randolph Thor 19, the man with the million, and with Starfield. And as always, we have managing editor, someone who greatly enjoyed his experience at Gamescom, which I'm sure he'll talk about, Jez Corden, Windows Central extraordinaire. He's here with us.
Yo.
Yeah.
We made it. We made it back from Cologne. Oh, man, it was so damn warm, bro. It was so hot. It was scorching. I was melting. It was way hotter than LA. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, LA is, like, supposed to be near a desert, near the equator. And I'm going, Cologne is always warmer than LA for some reason. But I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We made it. We're back in the driver's seat, literally and figuratively, if we're talking about games we've been playing recently that we can't talk about very much. Oh, actually, we can talk about Armored Core now. The embargo's lifted. But there's another game with the driver's seat that I can't talk about. Actually, there's a bunch of games with the driver's seat that I can't talk about right now. I'm rambling. Sorry we're late. I had to do a bit of housekeeping at my end, but we're here now. And happy birthday to Rand,
Yeah,
who is now 80 years young.
I thought it was 90.
Oh. But time dilation's a funny thing, man.
Yeah, yeah. Time dilation's a funny. No, I'm the big 42. The big 42, bruh.
42, baby.
And what better way to spend your birthday than by playing Starfield, huh?
Yeah, well.
Or maybe it's a bad way to spend your birthday. I don't know. Don't read anything into that. I played Starfield on my birthday. So
Yes, you did. And I played Starfield on your birthday as well.
Uh-huh.
In fact, pretty much all I've been doing non-stop is playing Starfield because the review embargo is this week. And
it's Thursday.
I'm trying to desperately get through it. I've barely written anything the last month because I was trying to review Baldur's Gate and I ran out of time. So I'm going to have to come back to Baldur's Gate later because I thought, well, I've got a higher chance of hitting the embargo with Starfield than I do with Baldur's Gate. So, oh man, what a time to be alive. There's just so many games come out. Sea of Stars is reviewed really well as well. I think my reviewer gave it 10 out of 10, and it's riding high on Metacritic right now. I don't know if you've seen that sort of JRPG kind of game. And we got more combat coming up. So, dude, there's too much. Too many games, bro. I don't know. Maybe they should stop releasing so many damn games. But hey, we made it. And did you do anything nice for your birthday? Did you have a pizza? Chicago pizza?
Nah, not really. I mean, my day was pretty much, I read a book. I was reading. I ordered some nice dinner, and with the Starfield embargo quickly approaching on Thursday, I played Starfield.
Nice.
So that was pretty much my birthday. So,
well, that's a pretty cool birthday. That's probably how I'm going to spend my birthday, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just gaming. I mean, it's the days of partying down and getting wasted are pretty much over for us, Rand.
Yeah, I know. Being 42 years old, most of my like in real life friends all have kids and stuff, and it's just one of those things where it's just kind of like, yeah, everybody's sort of grown and old at this point. Nobody really does anything anymore. So,
but hey, more time for gaming, right?
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
More time for gaming, indeed. And there was a lot of it this past week. We normally do the show on Fridays. I saw a couple people in chat saying like they do show on Mondays now. No, we're only doing it on Monday because Jez was experiencing Gamescom in the flesh, where he got to meet people like Gaz and John Sickamechanico from Xbox Era and Wandering Dutch and Boxenberger. So Xbox community out there in force, huh?
Yeah, I also bumped into Cloverell briefly as
well.
Cloverell
was there, yeah.
Yeah, there was so many cool people there. Like it's kind of annoying because it's like, man, I want to hang out with the community, but then it's like, oh man, I've got 50 meetings with really cool upcoming games to do. So it's like it's so chaotic and so crazy, but it was so rewarding this year. I think this probably was my favorite ever Gamescom. I think, like, I saw so much cool shit, like an absurd amount of cool shit. And there's so much, community people there. It's also the first one out of the pandemic. So, there was Gamescom last year, but it was rough, man. There was like there was very few booths there, and I think like they were sort of like, is this going to be a thing still? You know, I think they weren't sure. You know, if people would keep coming after Gamescom and after E3 pretty much exploded. But no, Gamescom is back, baby. There's 350,000 people there. It was absolutely rammed. Probably a super spreader event with COVID. I actually feel a little bit under the weather right now. So if my throat sounds weird later in the show, it's because I've got a sore throat. And I just feel a little bit down under the weather kind of thing. But yeah, Gamescom was rad, bro. And we're going to get into it in a little bit. I played a lot of games and we'll talk about it soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, Phil Spencer did an interview with Destin. The CMA is back, baby, which made Jez get into his feelings-based Jez, because Microsoft had to completely redo the acquisition to appease the United Kingdom. There's Baldur's Gate is finally coming to Xbox this year officially, and all the stuff that surrounds that, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So if you guys could do us a huge favor, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are new. Let everybody know that we are live on this August 28th on a Monday. We got a lot of things to talk about, but first, Jez, we have a sponsor for this episode, right?
We do indeed. We do have a sponsor. Just bear with me one moment. Our sponsor this week is, of course, the indomitable Manscaped. So, Rand, are you preparing for a voyage to the stars? Do you want to avoid having personal hygiene issues while floating around in zero G? Then you need Manscaped for a totally out-of-this-world men's grooming experience. For all the sleekest version of yourself and to prevent spacesuit chafing, Manscaped has you covered from head to toe, starting with their brand new beard trimmer. With 1 guard and 20 adjustable lengths, this device is the perfect travel companion to take. Oh man, my throat really is sore, man. Let's start that again.
Okay.
With 1 guard and 20 adjustable lengths, this device is the perfect device to travel companion, fit to take care of your mane wherever you are in the entire galaxy. Next in line, who can forget about their signature performance package 4.0? Included in this ultimate groom bundle is the star of the show, the Lawnmower 4.0, equipped with skin-safe space technology, may or may not be space technology, to minimize nicks and cuts in all of your sensitive areas. Once again, Manscaped supports the Xbox 2 podcast so much, they provided an exclusive offer for you, our lovely listeners. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code XB2 at manscaped.com. That's XB and the number 2, and 20% off with free shipping worldwide with code XB2. Links in the description, and feel like yourself again. Take charge of your life and head into the great dark beyond with Manscaped. Yes, thanks to Manscaped once again for sponsoring this video. I actually took a load of my Manscaped products to Gamescom.
Oh, big
help. Yes, I did. Big help there. You know, you want to look your best when you're meeting the peeps, right? But yeah, the beard trimmer is awesome. It's without a doubt the best beard trimmer I've ever owned. But so definitely check them out. It supports the show. And Manscaped's been with us for God knows how long now. Well over a year. Well, we're at 2 years now with Manscaped. Absolutely
Almost.
Crazy. So the support, yeah, like the support you guys are giving us through Manscaped and the support Manscaped give us is amazing. And the products are actually genuinely great. So that's Manscaped. But we've also got some Patreon shoutouts because the Patreon has grown immeasurably after our XB2 +1 with Colin Moriarty the week before last, I think now at this point. But yeah, thanks to everyone for support there. And Rand's got some shoutouts to read, I think.
Yeah, we have Mo Spankins, Saucy Mods, James Wiseau, The Grandest of Bip, Chris Parney, Starsman, Hey Blinken, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Mockazilla, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Halo is the franchise player, Katriox, Bright Thunder 1, A Black Midget from Connecticut, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Pro P Bro King, Asa T and Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, Butterball 8, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ, and Ralph Wiggum. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/XB2. And we will, next month, we'll have Xbox 2 Ultimate. Probably not sure when yet. We'll let you guys know. But we do have our guests locked in for September. We're just kind of...
XB2 plus.
What?
Plus one. I was actually going to talk to you and maybe the Patreons about maybe like doing 2 XB2 plus ones a month.
2?
Instead of doing an Ultimate.
Killing it.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see. But we have Mr. Matty Plays will be joining us in September. We're just trying to figure out like a date which would be best. So Mr. Matty Plays, what better time to have Matty on than after the release of Starfield and all the stuff that's going on with the Xbox. So that should be a pretty damn good conversation with him. Because we've been on Defining Duke quite a bit. I believe are you on Defining Duke again real soon?
I am, yeah. I'm talking to Matty and Cog about jumping on Defining Duke, probably after Starfield embargo or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see if I'm still alive, because I got a lot of stuff to do in the near term, but we'll see.
Yeah. So thank you guys for all your support. And yeah, we will be having a show on Friday, which is going to be a very interesting show because, I mean, it's going to be mostly Starfield related because we'll be able to...
The embargo will be up by then, right?
Yeah, the embargo's on the Thursday before. And me and Jez actually thought about doing a special podcast on that Thursday. But since the regular podcast is like literally the next day, we're just going to do a regular podcast, which, you know, will be mostly Starfield related because we do have a lot of stuff to say about Starfield and everything surrounding it. So there will be another podcast this week. Big week, you know, Starfield embargo and everything. So yeah, can't wait to Friday. You know, I mean, I can't wait till Thursday, depending, you know, so I can give my thoughts on what I think about Starfield.
Yeah.
But
we talked about it a fair bit before the show, and it was like, but I think this is the first time we talked on voice since we both had the game. We have thoughts, so stay tuned for that. Basically, the podcast, a big segment of next week's show will be a review podcast segment. But I'm going to have a written review up on Winter Central as well. I was going to do a video, but I just don't think I'm going to have time, Rand.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. We'll see.
We'll see indeed. So, let me get through some of these member chats and super chats. We have Space Dovakin, member for 28 months. Let's effing go. Happy birthday, Rand. Missed you guys. Have a great day. T-minus 3 days and 10 hours for exploring the cosmos. Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for all the happy birthday wishes, by the way. Everybody who wished me happy birthday on Twitter or through DMs or through Discord or through text messages or called me on my phone or in the Discord, Xbox 2 Discord. And anybody here in the chat, I see you all. So thank you guys very much for all the love. Really appreciate it. 42. And another trip around the sun is completed. So we got another one to go. And
you're thinking of everything in space terms now.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. We have Joe Repco, aka Flame, member for 26 months. Happy birthday, Gaz. I mean Rand. Ranchan. Sorry for force of habit, uwu. Also, Jezcon, if you need a Sherpa for Warframe, hit me up, sir. You will need it. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about Warframe a little bit on X. I'm never gonna get used to calling it that. But because it was TennoCon this past week, which is like the Digital Extremes big event for Warframe, and their upcoming fantasy Warframe, Soulframe, it's a pretty appropriate name for it, I guess. So there's been some chatter about Warframe recently, and I don't know, Armored Core kind of put me in a mech mood as well, because I've been playing that here and there a little bit. Obviously, not going hardcore on it because of Starfield, but like in those situations where I can't have any sound, like right now, and I want to play something where I don't have to give it my full focus, I've been playing Armored Core. So yeah. I'm actually playing Armored Core right now.
Tom Henderson's wondering where his invite is for Xbox 2 Plus One. Don't worry, Tom. You're on the list. You're on the list of people that we want. We want it. That's the thing. We only do one a month. So you know.
Well, this is why I was thinking about putting it to a vote on Patreon. Should we do 2 a month? Because then we could get more guests in.
I don't know. I like the once a month thing. 2 a month is kind of too much. Plus,
instead of the Ultimate, I was thinking, but
yeah, but the problem is not everybody is available. Not everybody can do the time we do it. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to do it. I don't know. I kind of like the ultimate and then having one guest at some point instead of like trying to get 2 guests every single month. But we'll
figure it out. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably run out of guests at that point, but yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of guests, man. We could get a hell of a lot of people on.
Yeah, Scarecrow Run 21, member for 42 months. Once again, happy birthday, Rand. Glad you got to chill out and relax. Yeah, it's always nice to see Tom saying do more a month, you slack. Well, Tom, once you get all the info surrounding the Xbox Series X mid-gen upgrade, you'll be the first guest. Yeah, although it does sound like Phil's like absolutely not, no mid-gen upgrades this time. All right.
Yeah, it does not sound like we're getting a mid-gen upgrade this time, but
yeah. So let me open this thing up and let me get through the few I think we have some super chats I need to read before we get into everything proper. Hold on one second. Let's see. Going here to this. Okay. Here we go. Okay, we have
broken super chats thing.
No, I was just opening it up, trying to get all of them. We have let me look at the right date here. August 28th. We have Web Dave says happy birthday, Randall 419. You're the man, Rand. Thank you, Web. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Eliza Vasquez says happy birthday, Rand. Hope you and Jez are doing well, brother. We are. And thank you. Andre says Feliz Anniversario, Rand. Hashtag Scalebound. And there's a Scalebound mention as always, every single episode. Mr. Joanna Dark says just dropping into which Rand a happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. Joanna Dark. Appreciate that very much. Q-Tang Clan says great Towerborn video, Jez. Towerborn looks like a great couch co-op experience with all the fam of all ages.
Yeah, I did a very rough video for Towerborn. I did that on my phone. Like I didn't have any B-roll. I just pulled the trailer and just rambled into my phone microphone using some random app for making videos. But I wanted to get some thoughts down for when I write the article while it was still fresh in my mind. It was just a little experiment, but it was cool to see all the nice comments about that video, even though it was so like off the cuff and random. But yeah, Towerborn was really cool. I'll talk about it a bit more when we get into our Gamescom discussion. But yeah, I think Towerborn might have been my game of the show, or it's definitely tied with another game. But I'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, game of the show, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
For real.
We have X Power saying, will we get Starfield players and sales next week? I mean, I guess it's
we'll get players from Steam.
Well, yeah, you'll get concurrent users from Steam, which me and Jez have a bet about. I think it's. I said it'd be over 1 million after a week, or with it. It has a week for it to hit 1 million over on Steam.
Concurrent.
So yeah, will they give actual sales or player numbers? I would imagine if they're really, really high, you might get them maybe 2 weeks later or something. Although, with Forza Horizon 5, if I recall correctly, they did put out a press release pretty soon after the game launched about how it had the most number of players ever for an Xbox game and pre-release or something. There was some sort of PR that they released where they were touting how Forza Horizon 5 had the most players for an Xbox first party game at launch or something. And I would think if Starfield eclipsed that number, you might see the same sort of PR where, hey, Starfield's the biggest first party release in Xbox history with X amount of people playing in early access, and you know what I'm talking about, right? You remember that Forza Horizon 5 PR that Microsoft put out?
Vaguely.
But
yeah, I think we'll get numbers. I think the game will do really well in terms of users, purely because of Game Pass and the curiosity, and it's one of the most pre-ordered games on Steam right now, judging by the numbers. So yeah, I think we're gonna see. I think we are gonna get those numbers personally, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think we will too. What else we got? We have Lancelot saying, what was your pre-Starfield Metacritic guesses?
Can't talk about it.
Yeah,
we can't talk about it. It's too discussing that kind of thing is like too much of a hint about what we think the game will review at. So can't really talk about anything to do with that. So like if you super chat asking for like hints about the way Starfield's going to review or our thoughts on it, we just can't answer that, guys. We're under embargo.
I mean, Tom Henderson might have an article out with like sources. Like he did put out one the other day. But yeah, I will say I've never had as much interest in what people think. How do I say this? I've never had so many people message me with what I think about Starfield, trying to get information out of me. Like my DMs are so full with people just being like, "So what do you think? So what do you think? What do you think?" Like so many people want to know, and I'm just like, I can't say anything. This never happened before for any game, you know. And I've had access to all of like Microsoft's games early for the most part, and some other games, but like the constant. Every single day, somebody's trying to get some information out of me about my thoughts on Starfield. It is very, very. I've never experienced this before. I wonder what this is like for if like big time reviewers like ACG or Skill Up, if it's sort of like that for them, where they're playing this huge release that everybody's looking forward to, like Cyberpunk, right? Because it definitely seems like Starfield hype is literally everywhere, right?
For me, there's never been a game like this where I've had so many DMs, people trying to fish for information.
Oh, bro, it's ridiculous.
I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like the leaks we've had during the review program from like all the different. I mean, a lot of YouTubers have been given access to this game, so like, there's people breaking in NDAs left, right, and center, and it's on Reddit, some people have had the game early as well.
Someone got arrested. Somebody got arrested.
Yeah, I've actually got some. I was going to do a report on that, but I was so busy at Gamescom. But the FBI was involved in that.
The FBI was involved? What?
The FBI was involved. So like, I got a DM from someone who was they were trying to purchase one of the copies, right?
Okay. So you used to set up the whole scenario of what happened for people that don't know.
So basically, what it was this chap, allegedly stole a shipment of Starfield
copies,
physical discs, and collector's editions, from what I've heard, right? And someone I spoke to had ordered one of those off eBay, or wherever they were selling it. I can't remember if it was eBay or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, but they were trying to sell them, right? And they didn't know if it was legit or not. But the FBI got in touch with them and was like, "Are you aware this stuff is stolen?" The guy was like, "No," and he was like, "Can you give us all the evidence, please?" and all that kind of stuff. So like the FBI was full blown involved like pretty quick after that happened. And this chap contacted me. It was like, showing me like all the stuff the FBI said and that where he had to upload the evidence to like FBI secure servers and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, man, this is turned into like some kind of huge drama. And then like before I really got a chance to write it up, because I was at Gamescom, but there was like I don't know what you call it. There's like a website where you can actually see publicly what people who've been booked or arrested, and the dude like full blown got arrested. For stealing a shipment or whatever.
Yeah, well, not only that, he was streaming the game. He like that was where people got the first like footage of it. He was streaming it. He wasn't playing very well. It was kind of like that Polygon's footage of like with Doom 2016, where everybody makes fun of. So he was playing it, and then he was gonna sell it, but he had his like name out there and everything. And it sounds like he got he got arrested. It was just kind of like it was absolutely nuts, crazy.
It's like the dumbest thing, because it's kind of like what he did was full blown illegal. You stole a shipment of copies, and like, why would you try and draw attention to yourself in that situation? I'd be like, if I'd done that with the goal of like, okay, my goal is to offload these copies as soon as possible, right? I'm gonna try and keep this on the down low as much as possible. But this is the thing, right? Because of the hype around the game, he couldn't resist. He couldn't resist talking about it and getting a little bit of clout for it. And it's just hilarious. Like the people who, people were probably like begging him for info about this, and he's probably like, "Oh man, this is my chance to be famous for 5 minutes." And now the dude's going to jail, probably. but for like theft of goods or something, allegedly. So it's just a wild story, man. It's just a wild story. And then I don't know. It's just all, and now like there's like legitimate copies out there now, like from people who've broke this from small shops and stores that have broke the sell by date. I saw some copies on eBay already, Constellation Edition. I was actually looking for. I was going to buy the Constellation Edition earlier, and I was like, where can I buy this from? So I presume they're all sold out. But Game in the UK has a bunch of Xbox Series X Constellation Editions left. So I just snuck in there at the last minute, but there's a bunch of them on eBay already. So like, there's people stealing shipments of this stuff left, right, and center or something. But yeah, it's what a wild review cycle this has been. But is what it is, man.
I've never experienced something like this before, where every single day it's just somebody trying to pry information from me, and I probably will never be involved in something like this ever again. It's probably just the whole Starfield thing. I mean, I know like Hellblade 2 will eventually come out and Avowed and stuff, but I can't imagine the furor being of wanting to know about that game would be on the level of wanting to know about this game.
There's a lot of salt about this game.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of salt, but there's also like the salt in the opposite direction too. Like there's a lot of Xbox fans who just kind of have hinged their emotions on this game. I've had DMs from people who are just like, I'm so worried about Starfield. I'm so worried about Starfield.
I saw that DM. You shared that with me, and I was he was
the dude was like upset. He was upset.
He was like a legit upset. Like, just tell me if it's not going to review well, and you're just like, what? Yeah. He's like, I will be so devastated. I'm like, oh man, you need to get some serious help if you know.
Yeah, I was just like, dude, it's just video games. It's really just video games. It's like oh, Xbox has been bullied and stuff like that, and man, some people just really sort of taking this emotionally, like on both sides. I mean, the amount of hate I've been getting for the crime of being an Xbox journalist on Twitter recently has really ramped up, and it's all about Starfield. Like, it's just a game, man. It's so strange, the petty tribalism. I don't know if any other sort of fandom has this kind of bullshit than when comparing to Xbox versus PlayStation. I don't know if any other fandom has this, but it's whatever, man. I mean, it'll be over after a couple of weeks.
That's when it will just begin, though. What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, even if the game reviewed really badly, it's kind of like Bethesda games just get played.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they just get played because there's so much you can do with them. They're just huge sandboxes, and there's mods that can fix them.
I mean, people play
like
Fallout 4 and Skyrim to this day, right? I mean, how they re-released Skyrim how many times now at this point?
50,000. It's like it's a meme about how many times I've re-released Skyrim, and like I didn't give Fallout 4 a particularly glowing review. Like, I went back and checked. My review score has disappeared since we moved to a new system, but I think off the top of my head I gave it like 7.5 or something. Because I was unhappy with how linear it was compared to the previous games. Although, like, they did go and also it was quite buggy when it launched. But with Fallout 4, it's still one of the most played games ever. In the grand scheme of things, there's like mountains of mods, mountains of DLC, which did address a lot of my concerns with with the game's linearity, like Far Harbor and stuff. People said it was a great DLC. I never played it myself. I'm kind of waiting for the remaster to go back to Far Harbor and try some of that stuff. But these games just have a massive fan base, Not everybody likes them. And that's okay. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the world reacts to Starfield. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Gotta give a huge shout out to the massive super chat that Hargeet Channy just dropped for the birthday. He says, "Happy birthday, Randall Thor."
Damn.
You didn't have to do that, Hargeet. I really appreciate it, man. Hope you're doing well. I haven't spoken to Hargeet. Maybe I don't think I've spoken to Hargeet since I started playing Starfield. I've just been sequestered. Sequestered by myself. Playing.
Hargeet, if you're still there, one chip challenge for charity.
Whoa.
November.
One chip challenge for charity. Is Gaz on board again?
Yeah, I spoke to Gaz. So like I had this crazy idea of doing a one chip challenge for charity in November for like special effect or something like that. And I spoke to Gaz about it at Gamescom, and Gaz is down to suffer once again. So like we're gonna do it. I'm gonna try and get. I want Hog Eat there. I want Hog Eat there because he was such a boss on the last one chip challenge. 10 minutes with no problems, and then it all hit him. It all hit him at once.
Yeah.
It's like his digestive tract was backwards or something. But yeah, I don't know if oh look, Hog Eat's down. Hog Eat's down. So that's three of us. So Rand, you gonna do the one chip
No,
challenge?
I told you. I mean, I saw the person linked in the thing about what I'm not doing the I don't care. I'll never do the hot chip challenge. I'm not. I don't care.
Someone sent me this clip of you from one of the podcasts. I can't remember if it was Xbox 2 Ultimate or not, but you were like, nah, and I was like, Rad, think of the children. You were like, fuck them kids.
Yeah, is that Michael Jordan meme. I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's just like F them kids. It's like, F them kids. I'm not doing one chip challenge.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll have some details in the future, I guess.
Get Colt to do it, you know?
Yeah, I want Colt to do it. We'll see if we could get Colt to do it. That would be really cool. But we'll see. We'll see. So, I think Siki Mechanico said he'd do it too, if I remember correctly.
John we'll get from Xbox Air, who was doing the rounds at Gamescom as well.
Yeah, he was. He actually saw. I think he saw more games than me. Like he saw. He saw certain Affinity's game behind closed doors. Project Lobo, I think it's called, which is not
Project Suerte, because we had that discussion last week about.
So they've moved on from. It seems they've moved on from those games, which is, I don't know.
Well, I think they still have one more game in production that we don't know what it is. Like,
so it's either Tatanka or Suerte.
Well, there's Tatanka that we sort of know they're working on, and then there's this new IP that they're showing. Lobo, right, is the name of it. And then they have another one that they're co-deving on, from what I understand. So, you know,
Tatanka hasn't. Halo leakers were tracking Tatanka through the Halo API for a while, and the API for the API which showed whether Tatanka had been updated, that went quiet for months. I think since before Christmas, there hasn't been any activity on the Tatanka branch. But I think someone saw that there'd been some activity recently, which is weird. It could be nothing, but I don't know. Don't know the status of that game anymore at all.
I mean, I guess it's possible. I guess it's possible the other game that is Project Suerte, or maybe Project Suerte was just never got off the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. It could have just been a design schematic, an idea, a concept, a pitch, whatever. I mean, the information that I had about Suerte was that it was a pitch, basically.
Well, I mean,
it was a pretty comprehensive pitch.
Most of your
Jack
project
Grubb
names,
heard about it too, right?
Yeah, most of your project names have come to fruition. So, I mean, this would be the first one that essentially wouldn't if they aren't working on it.
Yeah, it'd be a surprise, but maybe the pandemic hit it or something. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. We ultimately just don't know at this point. But it sounds like the Project Lobo, whatever they're working on,
surprised you didn't.
Sounded pretty cool.
I'm surprised you didn't go see it.
I don't think they like me very much.
I mean, shocker! Certain Affinity doesn't like you. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
put that in a list of companies that don't like Jez with Obsidian and what's the other one? Obsidian.
There's a lot of companies that don't like me.
Warner Brothers.
Well, yeah, Warner Brothers blacklisted me. Yep, good old WB. But hey, all my Mortal Kombat leaks were completely accurate.
Yeah, I remember when people were down. Did anybody apologize to you for that?
No, saying, I had a bunch of there was like 2 or 3 Mortal Kombat influencers made hit piece videos about me, saying like I didn't know anything, I was lying, and Mortal Kombat 1 is a dumb name. And then like literally after it got announced, I was like, oh my god, Mortal Kombat 1, you know. Like, come fuck on.
Yep.
Come on. But anyway, it is what it is, you know. But yeah, that's the job, man. It's the job. Sometimes you piss people off. It's the job. Tom Anderson knows. He's in chat. Yeah. Jeff Grubb knows.
Hey, we have over 1,400 people watching. Do us a big favor. Make sure you hit the like button and please subscribe if you're new. We got a lot of things to discuss. Because it's going to be... I mean, Gamescom was pretty big, but I do have a couple super chats here I still need to get to. We got Lancelot saying, "Have you guys discussed Gamescom? Thoughts on the Black Myth Wukong and Crimson Desert being the first real next gen game?" We haven't discussed it yet. I guess we could discuss. I'll ask Jez. Have you played or seen anything from Black Myth Wukong at all?
I have not. I haven't even seen the trailer for Black Myth Wukong, so I can't really comment on that.
The trailer looks pretty cool.
There's a lot of hype.
Here's the thing.
However,
okay, go ahead.
Go on.
No, go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
I saw a behind closed doors presentation of Crimson Desert.
Okay, because I will say, I did not watch the one night live because I have been just playing Starfield every day, right? Kind of just in my own world, just playing Starfield. So I didn't watch any of One Night Live, but I did watch the trailer for Crimson Desert because people were like, "Is this real?" And I watched that trailer and I'm like, I had the same thought. I'm watching this like, is this a real game? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in that game that kind of seems like it wouldn't necessarily be completely 100% real. I had the same feeling that when I watched this trailer as I watched, there was a game that Sony showed off at their showcase. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was kind of it was really fast paced, and it was kind of like a Sekiro, Bloodborne-ish type game, a Souls-like experience, what it looked like. But it was just like, man, some of those moves the characters are doing doesn't really seem like it would actually be real. This seems, and then we found out like, oh, the developer of the game had only made mobile games before. I forget the name of it, but I had that same reaction watching Crimson Desert. I'm like, this looks way too good to be true. And when that usually happens, I'm like, I kind of like, all right, I'm down it. So, but you got to see it behind closed doors. Phantom Blade, yes, is the game that I'm talking about here. So what about Crimson Desert behind closed doors?
Okay.
Can you tell us?
Well, I can't talk much about it because I am under embargo, but I can tell you that I watched someone play the game for real on live code.
Okay.
That trailer was 100% real.
Really? Wow.
100% real. Yeah, and I can't say anything more than that. But I'm really excited to be able to talk about that game in the future. But that trailer from Crimson Desert, 100% real.
Whew, all right, that's impressive. Because Crimson Desert, if I recall correctly, was first shown off at an Xbox E3 showcase many years ago, right? I think it was like maybe, God, I feel like it was 2018, 2019.
Honestly,
I feel like it was shown off before next gen started. Because it's been a while since we've seen or heard anything about it, and here we are in 2023, and I feel like that trailer was, like I said, it was so good it had me doubting if it was real, and now you're saying that it is. So that's mighty impressive. Did they give an indication about when it might release at all? Do we know anything about that?
I'm not sure. I can't say anything, even if they did tell me. But if they did tell me, I can't remember.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
So, but yeah, it's real. It's completely real. And you know, like the trailer, verifiably insane. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, picking up goats and stuff. Like what's going on? In this game?
Yeah, it's wild. They made Black Desert Online previously, Korean dev.
Oh, maybe maybe that was the game I was thinking back in 2018.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe it wasn't Crimson Desert, it was Black Desert. Okay.
No, they have shown Crimson Desert before, I'm pretty sure. It's not the first time they've shown it off. But I think this is the first time they've shown it off more comprehensively, like gameplay and stuff. And when you do look at the trailer, like I just pulled it up here. Yeah, I can see what you mean that it looks fake, but no, it's completely real. And I guess like the fact that it looks fake is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a compliment to the game, really. But it could also be like what the chap said in the super chat, that like it does seem like maybe we're getting to that point where true next gen games are starting to come out and the engines are sort of being made to accommodate next gen only and stuff like that. I think they previously said that Crimson Desert Online was going to be a multiplayer game or something. I saw some people saying that on Twitter. I don't know if I'm completely on point there or accurate, but I don't know. Just keep an eye out for that game and keep an eye out for my coverage when the embargo lifts.
Right. We have a amazing super chat here from Ermic. LVT says, here's a super chat amount to match your age, Rand. Oh, 50, huh? Oh, man. Hope you had a
Dang.
fantastic birthday. Either of you bought a collector's edition that was not going to be on time for launch, so you bought the game again to play launch day? No, I have never. This might shock people. I've never bought a special edition for a game in my life. Never.
I buy too many special editions. I don't have room for it. I've got the Elden Ring Collector's Edition, and I've never even opened it. I got nowhere to put it. I got the Fallout 76 Special Collector's Edition Pip-Boy construction kit. It's not like a plastic thing. It's like full-blown metal construction kit. You have to build it, and they're worth like $500 now if you sell them on eBay. But yeah, I buy far too many collector's editions, and I just don't have space for this shit.
Well, mostly
and I've ordered Starfield's collector's
I
edition.
just didn't really want to spend the money on them. Like back when, when I started to buy games for myself and just wasn't gifted for birthdays and for Christmases and the like. To me, it was like, all right, well, why would I spend this extra money for this collect? I don't know. I had this thought in my head. It's like, all I care about is the game. I don't care about the statue. I don't care about, because the one that everybody bought that seemed to me was like the Halo Cat helmet one, right? The special edition for Halo 3. And I'm a huge Halo fan, and even I didn't buy that one. I just wanted the game. I think it was a combination of not really having a lot of money at the time, where it was like, okay, well, I could get the game for $60, but I could spend $200 on this, but I don't really have the money. Because I do have friends. Shout out to my buddy Love Boat Gopher, who literally buys the special edition. If it comes with a statue, he buys it, and he has this whole collection in his room. With the big shelves and everything, and each individual shelf has, here's the Armored Core 6 one, here's the Final Fantasy one, here's this and that, right? And they're all just in their thing with all the lights behind it and stuff. I call him those are his dolls, and he always gets upset at me,
My stepdad calls them that too.
And my buddy Sam,
they're not dolls.
My buddy Sam, who I game share with on Xbox and PlayStation. He bought the special edition, whatever it was, for Final Fantasy 16, but it wasn't coming on time, so he ended up also then buying the digital version of the game so I could play it. So he actually bought both versions of the game, and then guess what? It's August, so it's been over 2 months since Final Fantasy 16 has come out. He hasn't even played it yet, but he bought 2 copies of the game, the most expensive version and the digital version, and he still hasn't played it.
That's hilarious.
Oh, bro, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. He has been looking forward to Starfield so much, right? It's the most anticipated game of the year. And I texted him, I'm like, hey, by the way, we have Starfield right now. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm about to go on vacation for over a week. F my life. and then he was going on vacation. And then he was going to PAX West this weekend. So then he was immediately coming home from vacation and then going to Seattle. And I'm like, I won't be able to play it. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was just so funny just reading his text being like, Bright, the game that we wanted the most, we have 2 weeks early. And he's like, F my life. I'm going to the beach. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, well. We
have a super chat here from Sin Vendetta. Rand, happy belated birthday, buddy. Thank you, Sin. Appreciate that. And he also says, this whole Xbox 360 store shuffling down got me to plug in my old 360 and slowly started buying and downloading all the 360 and arcade games that aren't backwards compatible. Well, that's good. I mean, they gave you a year to do that if you really wanted to, if you were interested in playing any of that sort of stuff. Buying some of the games that were going to disappear. I mean, it sucks that those games are going to leave. And I know Phil was asked this question at the IGN, where he says Xbox is all about preservation, which some people were kind of going at Phil over that comment. He was like, yeah, you say that, but games keep on disappearing and stuff. And it's like, hey, sometimes it's kind of being like, well, maybe we can make it, be on PC so it exists, even if it doesn't exist on the 360 and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, it's not just like... Game preservation is not just about game preservation. It's about hardware preservation. And it's kind of like... Sometimes there comes a point where you can't justify keeping that up. And where you just basically operating a charity. And, the ultimate game preservation vehicle is PC at the end of the day. So, like, it shouldn't be like a case of bitching at Microsoft to pay for the 360 store to last forever. It should be bitching at devs and publishers to bring their games to PC, because that's PC exists in perpetuity. That's just how PC works. 360 is not going to exist forever. Xbox Series X is not going to exist forever. PC is going to exist forever. So I don't know. It's just my thoughts on it.
We also have a member chat here from Sith Lord. He says, Rand, I know you won't crack on like Gaz or Lord Attic. Jez, on the other hand, we have ways of making him talk. Hope you had a good birthday, Rand. I did. It was a good birthday. It was very good. We have Risk It for the Biscuit say, what's up, Jez? Rand, 3 days left to lift off, indeed. And I'll be on Risk It's podcast for like 30 minutes on Friday. So I got to do double duty on Friday because we got to do an R show. And then I got to hop in Risk It show for like 30 minutes because he asked me to be on. So it's like, yeah, I could do. Normally I say cool. No. I can't do 2 shows in one day because this one, by the time I'm done with this one, I'm kind of worn out. I'm just like, all right, I just want to relax. But I figured let's talk about Gamescom. You were there.
Gamescom.
You were there in person. You got to play a lot of games. You got to see a lot of games. You got to meet a lot of people. So just tell me this experience, bro. How it compared to the other Gamescoms and all the stuff that you did and the things that you heard behind the scenes. Because I know you heard stuff behind the scenes.
So
let us know.
I was there by myself. So like I didn't have a team like IGN were there with a huge team.
Yeah,
and I'm there just
those assholes with their teams
with their money.
Little Windows Central like startup outlet just sending Jez there by himself, right?
Very much. But yeah, I didn't have much, much of a, I know what you call it. I didn't have much of a footprint. I didn't have a huge amount of resources backing me up. But that's fine. It's just kind of is what it is, right? But when I got there, I was sort of like, I didn't know what to expect because obviously Microsoft had said it's our biggest booth ever. What does that mean in real terms? Does that actually mean it's actually going to be physically bigger, or is it just spread out, or is it just like sort of thinly spread out over a wide area or whatever? But it was by far the biggest booth I've ever seen Xbox have at any event. It was just massive. It was the kind of booth size that Blizzard used to have back in the day and that EA used to have back in the day. I remember when EA, like, they did Sims 4, they did Dragon Age Inquisition, they did FIFA, whatever year it was, 17, 18, something like that. And they had like almost an entire hall to themselves. It was just massive. And like Xbox was approaching that now. And it was a case of like, just because they've got so much content there, like that, all the Bethesda stuff and all the Xbox stuff sort of under one umbrella now, under one roof. And it was just kind of cool to see that integration. I don't think Xbox has had for Bethesda an event previously, at least not on this scale. So there was like this huge beholder thing from Elder Scrolls Online there, this huge like alien statue thing, looked amazing. They had like a whole sort of diorama with a cosplayer for Stalker. They had like some Greek pillars for Ara History Untold. They had like a tower for Towerborn as well, which is really cool. Like a lot of effort had gone into making it sort of look fun, almost like a fairground, in addition to having just a sheer volume of content. They even had a cabinet with like NASA artifacts they'd borrowed in there. There was like space food in there, and there was like, oh, this is the flight module from like some NASA spaceship, like in a sort of little museum cabinet thing. They also had that crazy Fallout custom Xbox thing that I showed off. Like it was like a celebration of all of Xbox, and there was a Porsche there and all that kind of stuff for Forza. It was awesome. It really looked the part, and it really felt like, man, Gamescom is really truly back now. Because last year Gamescom was lame, Rand. It was lame. There was nothing there. There was no publishers or devs there really, or nowhere near as much as I'm used to seeing from Gamescom. Gamescom's always this huge, massive event, like way bigger than E3 has ever been. And a lot of people don't appreciate how much bigger Gamescom is because it's a convention. It's not like E3 historically. It was press only, and then they started opening it up to the public when they wanted more money. And they were charging publishers way too much. And like I spoke to a bunch of publishers, and they're like, "Yep, Gamescom's always been way cheaper to do than E3," and that's ultimately why Gamescom is thriving now, and E3 is dead. The ESA got greedy Rand. They got greedy. But anyway, E3's demise is ultimately Gamescom's gain. And I think like Gamescom next year will be even bigger, even better, and even more relevant. Because I think developers are crying out to us to sort of like, instead of spread all their marketing over like a whole summer, can we just have one event again, please? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about the games I saw around, because I saw a lot of games.
What was the best game you saw by far?
Right, so there were two games that really, really stood out to me. One of them, this is not including Crimson Desert, which I absolutely can't talk about under any circumstances. But there were two games that were really stand out to me in terms of like, wow, that really blew me away. And really, well, actually 3 games, I'm going to say. There were 3 games that really blew me away, and I was sort of really impressed with them. So the first one was Frostpunk 2, which I can't talk about at all. Under embargo for that as well for 2 weeks. So Frostpunk, for those that don't know, is a sort of apocalyptic sort of god game almost. You kind of build a city, but it's more about the people. It's more about like managing the society, and you can like, build up a totalitarian society or try and make things a little bit more friendly while managing the freezing ice age that's coming. I love Frostpunk 1. It was really addictive, and Frostpunk 2 sort of builds on that in a big way. Talk about that more in the future. The other game, again, is another game I can't talk about called The Altars, which, again, you might remember from one of the events. I think it was Xbox's event where they showed off The Altars initially. Do you remember, Ran?
No, no, I don't remember any game called The Altars.
Yeah, so I think you remember if you saw the trailer. They showed a teaser. I think it was at the Xbox event. I think it was The Altars is kind of like, I can't talk about it too much again because I'm under embargo. But the teaser they showed off before, it's kind of like there's loads of sort of clones of the dude, and he's sort of driving this huge space station that looks like a giant wheel with sort of shipping containers in it. And that's 11-bit as well. And the lead developer of that also made This War of Mine. So if you like This War of Mine, you definitely need to keep an eye on The Altars, which is also 11-bit as well. And also 11-bit has the Game Pass deal with Microsoft. And while they wouldn't tell me which games specifically are coming to Game Pass, at least some of these are probably going to come to Game Pass. So those are things to watch out for. But Towerborn, I can talk about in more depth and more detail because there's no embargo for that. I wrote it up right after the show. And so for those who are interested in Towerborn, Towerborn's working title was The Wandering Tower previously. They changed it to Towerborn, and before then it was called Project Belfry. Rand leaked it. I begged Rand not to leak it, but Rand leaked it. It wasn't me. It was all Rand.
Sure.
And yeah, so that's Project Belfry. But it's sort of like when it showed up in the trailer, like we'd have heard that it was going to be a smaller game and that it was going to have cartoony graphics and it was going to be cell shaded and all that. And like, I don't think it really showed off that well in the initial trailer that showed in terms of gameplay, because it was kind of like they took the models from the game and sort of whacked them in with cinematic cameras and stuff. And I don't feel like it worked that well in the trailer, because when I was actually sitting down and playing it, I was like, oh, wow, this game's really gorgeous. It has like this parallax effect similar to Ori with hand-painted backgrounds that look absolutely stunning. And but what really grabbed me about Towerborn, man, it was the gameplay, man. It felt so good to play. It had this really weighty combat feel to it, really tactile, like weapons connecting with enemies and stuff like that. And they explained to me that the combat designer worked on Killer Instinct as well. And there's like some Killer Instinct DNA in this game with the combos. And also they talked about the netcode a lot because this is an online game. Also got local split screen co-op. So it's sort of like the sequel to Castle Crashers that we never got and now we're getting. And but it's sort of it does a disservice to call it that, because it is so far beyond Castle Crashers, man. It's like there's gear in the game. There's like a Diablo kind of loot system to it. It's tile based, so like you expand out the fog of war from your tower, gradually taking killing bosses and doing events and doing missions and stuff with your friends and stuff. Gradually growing out the area of the map that's sort of safe, recovering it from the corruption or the cataclysm or whatever. They're not talking too much about the story right now. But the area I played was like there was all these giant mushrooms, evil mushrooms going everywhere, killing everything. And the boss was really quite tough. It was not completely easy. There's some things like that I think needs more polish, of course. Like it was hard to keep track of where my dude was because there were so many mobs on the screen. So oftentimes we're like, where the hell is my character? Like I can't find him in the scrum when there's 4 players on the screen. So I think there's improvements they can do there. Also a little bit of performance stuff, optimization they can do there as well. But yeah, Towerborn, very strong game. I think it'd be a very, very cool game for anyone who's got like friends they play local co-op games with, sort of that Streets of Rage DNA, but modernizing it and bringing along some loot addiction for good measure. And they talked about like doing DLC and they're looking forward to working on it for the next however many years if people enjoy it. But yeah, Castle Crashers on steroids is how I'm gonna describe Towerborn. I just hope they get the polish, the time to polish the game that the game probably needs. But yeah, that's Towerborn. I really, 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 really liked it. But I need to talk about a game I didn't like so much and I was a little bit disappointed about.
Which game was which is what? What game were you disappointed in?
Stalker 2.
Stalker 2. Now it's interesting because last week there was a rumor that it was launching in December because of store listing, but that ended up being false because they announced during Gamescom that because there's a new trailer, people went hands-on, and that the game will be launching Q1 of 2024, which is, January, February, March. Mm-hmm. I know people have played it. You've played it as well. And what you had told me it was not glowing at all. So let the people know what you thought of Stalker 2, I guess.
Well,
I can't wait. I'm gonna have chat open. I can't wait to see what people say to you. Okay,
so the issue with Stalker purely was how rough it felt. It felt like it was coming in really, really, really hot. And this is a dev that's literally gone through hell and back. So it's kind of like, it's not a case of like blaming the dev, really. It's more a case of, my God, I really hope Microsoft gives this studio the support they need to really help this game land as good as it possibly can. There was just so many issues with it in terms of the way the UI worked and freezing and glitching and all kinds of stuff. And man, it's kind of yeah, I just really want it to get the polish it needs, man. The demo felt like it had been quite rushed together. It felt like we've accepted this slot at Gamescom or whatever. We need to make sure that we've got a build ready for Gamescom. And they did the best they could with the time they had. Like the demo that I played was probably literally about 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long, if that. You could get through it really quickly. But the promise is there, man. The gameplay, the actual gunplay just felt so immersive and so realistic. That's kind of what Stalker's known for, is a hyper-realistic gunplay. And they nailed that aspect of it. And the environmental visuals as well, absolutely stunning environments. They completely nailed that too. The tone of the game completely nailed that as well. It's just a matter of polish, I think. It's really is a matter of polish. So with regards to Stalker, and I'll be writing about this soon, it's all about, I hope that Microsoft will support them to get the polish they need, fund that studio, so they can really help this game land as well as it possibly can. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Stalker. But the sort of the bones of an incredible game are genuinely there. Like the combat, just the actual just shooting the gun felt amazing, and the minimalism and the environments and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that studio's been through.
They've been through a lot.
Something that no other studio's been through probably what they've been through.
I mean, maybe the demo was just an old build,
Yeah, maybe, and sure, but it's just kind of like I don't think. I just hope that it gets that polish. That's my main feedback on Stalker 2. So I was like, man, this is yeah, a bit a bit rough, a bit
Right.
rough. But there's like a lot of other games I played that I know you're not gonna be interested in.
Oh god.
So I played Cities Skylines 2.
I mean, I know people are excited for that game, and I know you're really looking forward to it. What'd you think?
I don't know if I can talk about it yet,
Oh,
but
another one that you can't talk about. Wow.
yeah.
Jeez. What can you talk
no,
about, Jez?
Suffice to say, I was very, very impressed with it.
Okay.
But I'll
that
go into
comes
more
out
detail.
October 24th. Man, I gotta say, the end of this year for Game Pass is really packed with. I mean, September is probably the best month for Game Pass ever when you look at it. Like, I know right now, granted it's August 28th, but Sea of Stars is launching, and I don't know if you saw the reviews for Sea of Stars, but
yeah,
they're
I did.
incredible.
Yeah,
right?
we gave it 10 out of 10.
I mean,
My
I saw on
it.
the Open Critic, it's like a 94. That's a day one Game Pass game, as well as also day one in PlayStation Plus, and they normally don't do that. They also like made a ton of money on Kickstarter, so they're rolling the dough, and the game is actually really good. So I know it's not technically September, but I mean it's basically September, right? And then you get Starfield, probably the biggest Xbox game. We've talked about this at length, the biggest new IP for Xbox since Gears. So it's like this is the game people have been waiting for, and that is coming. Well, it depends. Early access is on the 31st, which is August, but day one is September 6th. Then you also have Liza P, which I believe is like the 18th or 20th. It's the Lamplighters League. I think is that September, October. I'm not sure. But there's like Party Animals. There's Payday 3, which is also around. I think that's the 20th. There's just like a ton of games coming to Game Pass. In the next couple months,
absurd amount of games, man.
It's absurd. It's ridiculous.
Absurd. Like I'm looking through my embargoes list right now, and there's like, I can't talk about a lot of the games that I played, but these are kind of like the games that I'm sort of working on previews for right now, and it's like Persona, Tactica, Sonic, the new Sonic game. What else did I play? Endless Dungeon. I don't know if you've seen Endless Dungeon.
I saw. We had the Persona 3 Reload, the remake, got a release date as well, which is day one in Game Pass. That's February 2nd, I believe, or February 4th next year.
Yeah, something like that.
So like that begs the question: are you gonna be done with Persona 5 by the end of the year? I mean, we're almost in September. You got 4 months to go.
Well, the first thing I asked them was, I can't talk about it actually. Yeah, I can't talk about it. But yeah, I played a ton of games, man. A ton of games. A lot of them are for previews that are under embargo. Obviously, I might not hit a bunch of these embargoes because I have to. I've got to review Starfield, so I'm gonna end up probably missing a bunch of this stuff.
Can you talk about what your Starfield prep's gonna be? I mean, because I know the only thing we can say about Starfield is like we can say we're playing it, but like you can't really say when you're gonna sit down to write it or how you're gonna write it. I
have no idea, man. I have no idea. I'm gonna try and do it by section, like graphics and performance, then gameplay, and then story, and then should you buy it kind of thing. At the end, which is how we do it usually. I've done a bunch of notes and that kind of stuff. But I haven't even started the review yet. I actually just got an email from Metacritic, and they were like, "Are you gonna have your Starfield review ready for embargo?" And I was like, "Bro, I haven't even started yet." I know a bunch of websites I've been speaking to have finished their review, and I'm like, "Oh man," because I was at Gamescom too, but I have put an absurd amount of hours into that game, an absurd amount, and like more than most, I think. So. I'm pretty confident I'll have enough content for the review, but we'll see. I mean, nobody's going to be able to do 100% do every single quest in the whole game, but it's all about
I'm looking
getting
forward
to
I saw Paris in the chat. Kind of funny what they're going to be doing for their review and seeing their reactions to the game. I'm definitely looking forward to that. To check it out when that happens. So Gamescom, best it's been in a long time, essentially. A lot of games you got to check out.
And I think Xbox should move its presser to Gamescom.
Nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks.
No. We don't need no LA. Sorry. LA's had enough. Microsoft should move its presser and all of its marketing to Gamescom moving forward. Give
They?
Europe some love for a while. That's what they should do, man.
Well, maybe Europe should show some love to Xbox then, if that's the case, huh?
Well,
Because Germany don't show love to Xbox. So why should Xbox show love to Germany?
Well, it's Microsoft's job to fix that.
Sure, absolutely.
But
you know who shows love to Xbox? The U.S.
Yeah, no one cares about the U.S.
Realistically,
no one cares about the U.S.
Instead of going to Germany, Xbox should do E3 from Chicago.
Come on. Isn't Chicago really cold?
I'm not during June.
Everyone would be cold, man.
No,
I don't know.
Obviously, they're not going to move the E3 showcase to Germany because everything's around there in E3 around that thing in June. So
German gamers are so funny. Like
they're all PlayStation gamers and PC gamers.
They're all PC gamers, man. Like the farming simulator booth is always huge at Gamescom, like massive, and they always have tractors there and stuff. And the most hilarious thing at Gamescom, there was because Germans love their simulation games, right? And if there's any Germans in the chat, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Germans love their simulation games. I told a story about an in-law friend I've got who's a farmer in real life, and when he finishes the day farming, he goes home and he plays Farming Simulator after he's finished farming in real life, man. So there was a school bus driving around in a circle around Gamescom with bus simulator marketing all over it. And it was very weird because, like, you know, those big yellow American school buses, we don't really have those in Europe. Not that I'm aware of anyway. So it was really out of place. And I was like, wait, does Cologne have American-style school buses? But no, it was bus simulator marketing. And everyone was going crazy for it, man. They were like cheering and shouting and yelling, like, yeah, bus simulator. I was like, Jesus. Maybe bus simulator's game of the show. I don't know. But yeah, it was just awesome, man.
Did you get so damn cool. So did you see the Starfield presentation? Like, did you see the Fallout teaser?
No, I did not.
You didn't see the Fallout TV teaser?
I didn't know there was going to be a Fallout TV teaser. So I was just like, I'm just going to skip the Starfield presentation because I'm playing the game anyway, and it giving me time to play something else. I did not know they were going to have something like that there. So I'm kind of irritated at myself for not going now.
What about Forza Motorsport?
I didn't see Forza Motorsport, and the reason for that is reasons I can't tell you about.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, there might be reasons that I didn't see Forza Motorsport either. But there was just so much cool shit to see regardless of all that stuff. Like, another game that I did play was Arrow History Untold.
Oh, okay. I know you were looking forward to that game.
Yeah, so I'm like, it plays kind of incredibly. Like, it is just Civ, you know, at the end of the day. It's like Civ, but it sort of refines the Civ formula quite a bit, but it's hard to deny the Civ DNA there. And it's there's a lot of people from Firaxis who are working on Arrow History Untold. So it's of course it's going to have a lot of Civ DNA. But I played it and it looks gorgeous. It's like fully 3D, so it kind of does away with some of that old school kind of tile kind of gameplay, all the cartooniness. So like the map looks like quite realistic and so all that kind of stuff. I just hope that it gets a little bit. It's another game that kind of needs more polish. The UI was gorgeous with all these glass effects on it. But yeah, that's another game I'm probably going to be looking out for. I don't know if I know you're not into that kind of stuff. I don't know how interested everyone in chat is about Arrow History Untold. I know these games are kind of niche, quote unquote. But Arrow History Untold could be a big deal for Microsoft. You know, turn-based foreground strategy, maybe with cloud in mind. If cloud still exists by then, the queues for xCloud are absurd, man.
Yeah,
they're absurd right now. What is going on, bro?
I don't know. Either tons of people are using them, or there's not enough servers, or I don't know.
Or they've reallocated xCloud servers
Yeah.
to they've reallocated
I mean,
xCloud servers
Grand
to
Theft Auto
actual
5 is
Russian
on
maybe?
Game Pass. I wonder if that really increased usage of people playing on the cloud or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Well,
What
I've
or
heard that like the way xCloud works is it's sort of like because it doesn't have like every single Xbox game installed all the time, right? So what it does is it sort of like it pulls down the game from and this is from talking to people at shows and stuff about how xCloud works. It pulls the game installation down over the network if it's not been installed recently on the server. So I think some of the queues are just the fact that the games are so big and the local server hard drives are just full of Grand Theft Auto right now. So if people want to play a game that isn't Grand Theft Auto or Fortnite, they have to kind of wait maybe for some of the games to install or something. It's I suppose it's weird the way it works, but I'm not sure like how else would it work, you can't like just have every single game installed 24/7 kind of. I have no idea how Nvidia GeForce Now does it with regards to that because Nvidia GeForce Now has like thousands of Steam games on there. I suppose I need to look into that, but I know. But xCloud has queues. Is the long and short of it. But I don't know. Well, I'm trying to find out more about what's going on there because it is kind of egregious. Some of the queues I've seen is like 2 hour queue sometimes,
mm,
and maybe the queue didn't actually work out to be 2 hours. It was just a calculation, and then someone slammed a screenshot into Reddit or whatever. But there was just never queues for xCloud before, so something weird's going down. But I don't know.
so did you do anything super cool with like Gaz and Sicka Mechanico and the Xbox community
Yeah,
and stuff?
we had dinner. We went out and we had some Italian. I had some spaghetti, I think, or something. I can't remember what I had to be honest. What did I have? Did I have spaghetti? I can't remember. But we went to no, I didn't. I had schnitzel. I had schnitzel and pommes, which is French fries basically. Um and yeah, we hung out, chatting around and all that kind of stuff. They were talking about all the games they'd be playing as well, and it was just so cool to see so many of the European Xbox cohort there because usually it's when I go to E3, it's the American cohort, and it's difficult to get out to E3 if you're in Europe because it costs a million pounds. But yeah, Gamescom was awesome for that. I also spoke to some Xbox people about secret things,
Oh,
which I
okay.
can't talk about.
What you can't tease that on the show and then just say can't talk about it.
Nah, I really can't. But I will say there's a lot of positive stuff going on Xbox right now, and I'm pretty excited for the future. As vague as that is, but
I mean, come
um,
on, you can't do this to
no, I
us,
can't, bro.
bro.
I
You
can't,
can't
bro. I
do this
can't,
to
bro.
us.
I
The
can't, bro.
chat
But
demands it.
you should be able to hear. Like, I'm quite upbeat at the moment, which is rare for me lately. I'm quite upbeat at the moment because I've heard a lot of good things about what's on the
Well,
road.
give us some
So
hints, bro. Give us some hints.
no, I won't. I won't. You'll have
Come
to wait.
on.
You'll have to wait for a report on WindowsCentral.com, bro.
Wait. I
Let me
mean,
tell you that.
can I just maybe Tom Henderson will report it and beat you to it?
Maybe you will.
You know.
Maybe you will. I don't know, but yeah, Gamescom was just awesome. I'm excited for next year and see if it grows. I wonder if EA and Ubisoft and those people will come back to it. There was no PlayStation and I believe no Nintendo this year. Nintendo had a marketing presence. They were in the business area, but there was no, as far as I know, there was no Nintendo booth. Genshin Impact had a big presence though. Hoyoverse, I think the company's called, right? Hoyoverse.
Something like that.
That had a
Yeah.
really big presence, yeah. Genshin Impact's very popular, of course, in everywhere, I suppose. So that had a big presence. I actually didn't get a chance to go look around too much because I had so many meetings. But yeah, Gamescom was awesome. And yeah, I'll have more details in the near future.
All right. We have
Once the embargoes lift.
Yeah, we have Spartan661 in Super Chat saying, Happy birthday, Rand. My birthday was last Sunday. Well, happy belated birthday to you. That's awesome. People are saying, Master Mirror says there was a Nintendo booth.
Oh, was there? Fair enough.
I would imagine so,
saw-
because like the best Nintendo game one was like Zelda, so I think they had Zelda there or whatever.
Fair enough. I didn't see it, but I did see they had a big marketing booth in the business area. But Sony wasn't there. I don't think Sony was there at all. One thing that was quite funny though, and kind of sad in a way, Amazon had a booth for Amazon games. There was no one there, man.
No one at the Amazon Games thing.
No,
such a
at least on
shame.
the business day. No one wanted to talk about Amazon's game. Which gaming's tough, man. You know, who's running Amazon games? I can't remember. It's someone from. Isn't it someone from Xbox who's running Amazon games?
I thought they
From
like
back in the
wasn't
day?
it like Mark Whitten, but I think he left, didn't he?
Yeah, maybe he left. I don't know who's running Amazon games these days, but yeah. Oh, and there was it's kind of sad for Amazon because like I think Amazon is publishing some cool games at the moment, and they're trying to do the Tencent thing with the free to play, which I think is putting some people off. And also like, I don't know if Amazon's artificial inflating the numbers on Twitch thing is working out for them. I think it kind of poisons the well and makes people skeptical of their games. Like one of the bits of discourse this week, Rand, was that Immortals of Avium.
Yeah.
Did you see? So
Well,
Immortals
because
of Avium.
you were talking about like we were talking about Crimson Desert and like true next gen games, right? But here's Immortals of Avium, which just came out, which looks like it might have bombed. Not a lot of people playing on PC. New IP coming out during the summer, about to get trampled by bigger games. But people were talking about the Digital Foundry video because this is like one of the first, if not the first. I think it's maybe the second now because I think Remnant 2 was UE5, but this is UE5. But it runs at a staggering 720p on the Xbox Series X and
No way.
PS5, but upscaled using I think FSR2 upscaled to 4K, and then the Series S version, which we have a lot to talk about. The Series S, that was like running at 480p upscaled to whatever resolution they're upscaling it to. So a lot of people are like using this game as proof that mid-gen consoles are needed, because how can you have a game that's like native 720p in 2023 and stuff? Is that what you were gonna mention and talk about?
Actually, no, because I didn't know
okay.
that. I didn't know it was running so poorly. I saw some people talking about it being sub-optimized on PC and stuff, but I didn't know that it was that bad on consoles. That's crazy. What I was going to talk about was the fact that they had this big marketing campaign on Twitch where they paid streamers to play the game, basically. So
Right.
this is what Amazon does with like some of the games they publish, like New World. New World had this massive inflated artificial concurrency number when it first launched, and as soon as the campaign ended, the game died, fell off a cliff, no one cared, and the game's dead now, pretty much. So, they did the same for Immortals of Avium. So EA paid a bunch of streamers to play the games on Twitch and whatever, but it just doesn't seem to have helped the game at all because it's got like less than 1,000 concurrent players on Steam right now. It doesn't help that the game's, a mess on PC, and also that it's launching the same time frame as Baldur's Gate, Armored Core, Starfield, and now like Sea of Stars. You've got the indie darling in there as well, which a bunch of people are going to want to play. So it kind of like the worst time for it to launch a sort of, I don't know what you call it. It's weird because I was going to call it generic looking, but it doesn't look generic looking. It looks quite interesting and stuff, but it's like EA. So I'm just skeptical of EA in general. So I just kind of like, out of all the games there is to play right now, Immortals of Avium is just not one I'm even vaguely putting on my radar for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know. It's not good for it, I suppose. But I can't remember why I brought it up now. But I think it was just like it was to do with Amazon's booth being empty, right? It wasn't just Amazon's booth that was empty. Like there was a bunch of like Web3 gaming booths there, like the NFT games.
Oh,
NFT
geez.
games, they were completely empty too. No one cares about NFT games or Web3 and all that crap. Which was good to see. That being a total complete failure. But yeah, Gamescom was awesome. I'm looking forward to going back next year.
And Michael Mooney, the super chat says, "What about Xbox doing a July showcase, then do booths at Gamescom, PAX West, and Tokyo Game Show?"
I suppose like it also depends on like how much they got to show, right? I mean, Phil talked about in one of his interviews from Gamescom that they are approaching this cadence of 4 games a year, right? I believe he said.
Well, yeah.
So
You want to? Yeah, we can get to some of what Phil said on IGN, right?
yeah.
Let me get to that actual thing. Like, let's go through the whole thing because it'll cover it. Because there's a lot of things here, right, that Phil talked about. So basically, I guess we'll start it off first here. We'll talk about. Let's see. I'm trying to find the point here. He talked about Forza. Okay. Destin asked him, "You've had a ton of reveals. Avowed was revealed. Perfect Dark, South of Midnight, Hellblade. Can you tell us more about the rest of 2023 and beyond, and what that's looking like for Xbox?" Because I believe Jarrett West said that this is kind of like the beginning of Xbox's salvo, right? How like 2023 and Starfield releases like the actual true beginning of Xbox's next gen. Because we've talked to death about how 2022 was completely lackluster, but 2021 was actually really good. And this is where Phil kind of talks about that. He says, "What I can say is we're going to have more beats to talk about what we do because the content lineup is so strong," which is probably something I'm really interested in, because you have what you normally do E3, you have that one news beat where you show some stuff off. But then most of the time Xbox goes quiet. Until like the Game Awards, where maybe they show one game, maybe they show two. But when it comes to content, it's like, here's E3, and then that's kind of really it. But the way Phil talks about it in this interview, where it's like, hey, we did E3, we had our biggest E3 ever, but now we're here at Gamescom, and it's our biggest Gamescom ever, and we're going to be at Tokyo Game Show, and all these sort of things that'll happen last year, because now we have the content that actually supports that. Now we actually have a steady throughput of games to talk about and market and have people to play. So now you need more of the avenues for people to experience that. So he goes on to say that, and he says, "And I say that completely recognizing that 2022 wasn't so strong." Yeah, okay. "But we have our biggest booth here at Gamescom, and we have a huge presence. I think there's 30 plus playable games on our floor, a lot of the first party games. Towerborn is here, R is here, so is Forza. So it's awesome to see the footprint that we have and the game portfolio from our first party, from partners, from Game Pass. So I think what you're going to see from us, where maybe last couple years we've been more on an annual in terms of when we talk about our games around, I still call E3, around that time frame. This year we did Developer Direct in January. We did our showcase. We're here with the biggest we've ever been at Gamescom, and you're going to see more regular times to talk about our games, because the portfolio is deep enough that we can support that." Yeah. And that's like really exciting to hear, because normally that hasn't been the case, right? Where Xbox talks about their games at multiple places because they actually have the games to actually have, right? I don't know. What do you think about that? Are we finally at that point where we're entering like Xbox's, I don't know, lack of better term, their Goldilocks zone, like the best, or at least what they promised this would be, right? The 4 games a year type thing that they've always mentioned.
Part of it's a pandemic. Like, I think like people really underestimate how much a pandemic sort of put a crease in a lot of this stuff. Hang on a sec. Sorry, I'm drowning in slime right now.
Slime? But slime?
Slime. I've got a cold, man. I might have COVID. I don't know. Did a COVID test this morning. It was negative, but I don't feel great. But I think the pandemic put a dampener on a lot of what, a crease in the pipeline for some of this more traditional marketing cadence. We've talked about how, I don't know, Xbox needed to do 4 games a year, and we all know previous Xbox years have been really bad, like exceptionally bad, and some of that stuff was a pandemic putting a sort of a buffer on a lot of development. Some of the games that came out development during the pandemic were just awful, and at some point you just have to sort of ship and forget and move on and stuff. And although he did talk about like they're still working on Redfall and stuff, I really doubt Redfall is going to have a kind of resurgence or renaissance or whatever. It's just mainly fulfilling the promises they'd made and then maybe moving on. They're supposedly working on bringing 60 FPS to that. I would doubt they got a big team working on that, but who knows? Who knows, man? We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Microsoft's approaching that cadence now of like 4 games a year, and we've been hearing about some of these. We know some of the games that are on the horizon, like Hellblade, South of Midnight. and Clockwork Revolution, and then there's studios that have games that we haven't seen, like Indiana Jones is supposedly halfway through development now, and Contraband. Where the hell is Contraband? You know, it's disappeared. Perfect Dark. Where the hell's Perfect Dark? Disappeared. And presumably the next time we see some of these games that are sort of off the radar, they'll be in a sort of presentable state, and we'll sort of have this sort of flow of news beats, which is kind of what you need if your central goal with your sort of, I don't know, your business revolves around the subscription. The kind of Minecrafts, the kind of games that capture the imaginations of millions of people, like Zelda, for example, and that kind of stuff. Has Xbox got it within them to do that again? Because I think that those are the kind of games that people have been yearning for from Xbox, and the kind of games that sort of lead to growth in the console market share. Although, like Phil always talks about in interviews, that they don't want to steal market share from Sony. They'd rather grow their market share, which is why the Series S exists. It's an experiment to see if there exists a market for someone who will buy a console if it's cheaper for them.
Sound like that's a failed experiment.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is a failed experiment, but it was an honorable experiment to have, I think. But maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and maybe they don't do it again. I don't know. Maybe the plays in the future, they do it more traditionally and they just have one SKU and then do the mid-gen refresh, kind of like they did with the Xbox One X or whatever, and then have the 2 SKUs throughout half of the gen. I don't know, man. Microsoft's the only one who's got the numbers on that, and they ain't sharing. They ain't sharing those numbers.
Well, you mentioned, other like Zelda reaching the zeitgeist and Xbox not having that. Just on the outside looking at the marketing that Starfield is, and like the discussion that Starfield's generating online and social medias, like maybe Starfield will have that zeitgeist, because you look online, everybody's talking about Starfield, and I know a month ago people were complaining about Starfield marketing. They ain't complaining anymore because it's showing up at soccer games. It's showing up on TV ads. It's literally everywhere. There are PlayStation fans, putting like a hate campaign on this game. I don't think I've ever seen anything like what it's going, what this game is going through right now, ever, really. Maybe Last of Us 2 because of what happened with the story and stuff. But
don't spoil it. I haven't played it.
No, I'm just saying. But you look at Starfield, and it looks like just from the outset, all the marketing and all the discussion, and that might be Xbox's first truly, as you would put it, zeitgeist game. It seems to be everywhere, right? So, we'll see how it, people take to it when they play it, but it definitely seems like I don't know. It's just so odd to me that last month people were crying about the marketing, and we were all like, well, maybe they don't really need to market it that much in advance. It seems like most marketing nowadays waits to the very end, right? Like God of War Ragnarok and some of the bigger games, like you don't need to market it like you used to. And now it's like, hey, it's 2 weeks before release, and they're really ramping up. Hell, they announced the Xbox Series X wraps, which you didn't even mention. Did you see? Because I know they were there. The whole wrap stuff, right? The Xbox wraps.
I have one right here.
You have? You actually have it in your possession?
Yeah, I have the wrap in my possession. Are they even out yet? I don't know.
No, they don't come out till October.
Yeah, this wrap can't be under embargo, can it?
Bro,
well, I can't show you.
Bro, obviously we don't have the camera set up for this, but Joshua B says in the super chat, quote, so how is Gamescom, Jez? End quote, and he says, under embargo, can't talk. That's very... So, you probably...
Yeah, I talked about Tower Board.
You're probably under embargo. You probably can't even mention that you have a Series X wrap. You probably just broke embargo, dude.
Yeah, maybe I did. I don't know. But I've got a wrap. I don't think there's an embargo on the wrap. I will write up the wrap tomorrow. I will say though that the just early impressions are it's very high quality, very very high quality. There's like sort of felt kind of feel going on the side that you connect to the console. So I'm not going to scratch your console or anything like that. feels very, very lovely, and obviously it doesn't restrict the airflow. It leaves the airflow on the Series X is at the bottom and the top, so there's no issue about airflow or heat generation or anything like that. But yeah, I will do a little write-up for that tomorrow maybe. But yeah, early impressions are good. I don't know if they're $50 good, but
Well,
they're $50, right? I think it got
yeah.
from,
So there's the Starfield one and there's the 2 camo ones, and I think the 2 camos are 45 and the Starfield one's 50. I think. Oh, they all three could be 50, but I think the camo ones are $5 cheaper.
Yeah, I hate the camo ones. Blue camo, like, what environment is blue camo good for? I don't know.
But this does kind of seem like this is their answer to custom consoles. It does kind of say we're not doing custom consoles. Like if and when Gears 6 comes out, or if and when Fable comes out, it's probably just easier for them to make a wrap than it is for them to make a custom console, right?
I think there's an issue with silicon, man. Like, rare earth minerals are absolutely... The demand for rare earth minerals, I think I read, is going to go up by 400% in the next decade or something. There's not enough rare earth minerals in existence to sustain the demand that's coming for it. They're putting microchips in literally everything, literally everything. And Microsoft's in a position where, it's kind of like we don't have enough silicon for our regular consoles, and you're talking about doing custom consoles and stuff. So this is like, it's similar to the PlayStation 5 plates.
Yeah, right. What the Spider-Man 2, the Spider-Man 2 console,
yeah.
But that's the custom stuff is just on the plates. So they can just make a regular PlayStation and then just swap the plates.
Yeah,
whereas
it's
before
smarter,
you couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's probably one thing that did always bug me about, like, the custom consoles, and they're cool, and I had the Gears of War 4 Series S, I think it was a Series S. It wasn't a Series X. No, 1S, sorry. I had the Gears of War 4 1S, the crimson one. Looked amazing, and I had the controller and all that kind of stuff. I think it was Gears of War 4. Gears 5 was an icy thing, wasn't it? But it was like, yeah, I've got this amazing console with this all the laser etching and all this badass stuff. And now I've got a 1X, and now this absolutely gorgeous console is pointless, But this way, I can just take the wrap off it, and I don't have to think about buying a custom upgrade. So there's pros and cons, I mean, obviously the laser etched custom consoles that they did before are absolutely gorgeous looking, but there's an obsolescence there, I think. But it sort of begs a question: do you think they'll keep the same tower design on the Series X? I think they will, because it's pretty damn badass, and it seems to be working well for him. But yeah, I'll have a write up about the wraps in the near future.
The wraps. We have I don't know this Chinese lettering here who says the issue seems to be with Lumen and Nanite being on. Even on my RX 7090 XTX, the game boots up with FSR quality mode on. He's talking about Immortals of Avrium.
Oh, rich.
Yeah. And Risk It for the Biscuit says, I want a mid-gen refresh, but if a game's upscaled to 4K and FSR 3.0 is on the way, doesn't matter what res it scales from, 99% of gamers won't see it. I did notice that where people talked about that you didn't really hear anything about Immortals of Avrium's graphics or how it looked like until Digital Foundry pointed out that it was 720p, and then people were like, oh my god, disgusting.
I just realized, like, when you said list 720p, that was my reaction. Oh my god, that's disgusting. But maybe it looks okay, I don't know. But that's the thing about these Digital Foundry stuff, is it's kind of like a double-edged sword when the headline lacks full context.
Yeah,
because we all think of 720p and we associate it with the dark days of
the 360. It was like the 360.
The Xbox One.
Oh yeah,
720p Xbox One and stuff.
Which it was like was it the early Call of Duty Ghost that was 720p and 1080p on PlayStation, or was it 900 and 1080p? Because Xbox One and PlayStation had that varying resolutions. All the time.
Like I don't know.
But back to the Phil interview. Destin asked him, Matt Booty promised us 4 first-party games per year, because this is something that they have been talking about since, 2019, 2018, I want to say? This, like, goal of, at some point, we want to be able to release at least one big game a quarter. And Phil talked about at E3 that they're on schedule for it, and once again, Destin asked them, hey, are you guys on track? Matt Booty said, yeah. And Phil said, more than that this year. If we start with Hi-Fi Rush, Minecraft Legends, Redfall, and he says maybe people don't want to give us credit for Redfall, but I get it, I understand. Starfield, Forza, we just dropped Age of Empires 4 console last night. Awesome, I'm going to play that. And then going into next year, absolutely. We have talked about it as an aspiration, but now we talk about it as our plan. So it sounds like it's finally a reality. They hit it this year. Granted, some of the games were of varying quality, which Redfall releasing at the state it did Xbox no favors, right?
No, it did not.
Because just releasing games isn't enough. The games have to be good games. They have to be quality.
Yes,
they can't just
they
be
have
like
to be good games.
Yeah, they just we released 4 games. That's what you guys want. No, it's not. You just don't release 4 games. You have to release 4 good games, or the games you release have to be good. Like, I understand taking a creative risk and it not paying off, but the thing is with Redfall, I didn't really see a creative risk there. It just didn't pan out, right? So it's like, okay, Hi-Fi Rush, creative risk, especially for that studio, paid off completely, right? Jeff Grubb mentioned recently on his podcast that there was the whole drama about what Jeff had said before about the game not meeting expectations or not making money for the retail version or whatever. But he reported that Xbox is really happy with the studio and they're investing in the studio and they got big plans for Tango, which is great because they're a really damn good studio. But Hi-Fi Rush could have been seen as a creative risk from a studio known for making horror games, right?
It was a creative and a marketing risk because they didn't market it really either.
No, it was a shadow drop. So I could see that being a big franchise. Minecraft Legends kind of seemed like a fart in the wind. It came out and kind of just stunk up the room, and then people forgot about it. I don't really think people are playing that anymore. It didn't review particularly well. Redfall, well, we know all about that, right? And we got Starfield, we got Forza, so there are your games. Next year, we already know, at least right off the bat, we have Hellblade, Avowed, and Towerborn, but they did say there's more unannounced games for 2024, so they'll probably hit 4 then. It's about the consistency too. It's about not only releasing the games and of being high quality, but also at a consistent basis. You can't have another 2022 again, right?
No.
You can't have a situation where it's like, yeah, we got games for 2023 and 2024, but guess what? 2025 is barren. Yeah,
it's not even like this is a new thing either. Like, we talk about Redfall, we talk about the pandemic, but they've been doing this for years now. We had Crackdown, we had Recore, which showed up initially as like, oh wow, CGI, this must be a big deal, and then it's like, oh no, actually it's $30, kind of thing. So it's not like it's a new thing that Microsoft had sort of quality issues and quality perception issues, because it does create this sort of like negative aura around the brand when you don't have the quality, and that's why, like, I've often thought, we talked about it a long time ago, like, should they bring back Xbox Live Arcade as a brand for their smaller games and stuff like that. Microsoft philosophically doesn't, I know Microsoft philosophically doesn't like that, because games to them, games are games and stuff, but like from a branding perspective and thinking about how that would look from a branding perspective, it's kind of like if you started a book review channel on your main channel, that would kill your algorithm.
Yes.
So this is why, like, sometimes it's good to keep some of these things separate. And if you have like a separate brand for your smaller games, maybe it could help with brand perception or so. I don't know. It's a philosophical debate. That's neither here nor there. However, it does seem like we're getting out of that now, sort of the quality stuff. And I honestly, I can't see another Redfall happening. That they took that to heart, man. I've spoken to people at Xbox who they looked visibly distraught when I talked to them about Redfall. I think I wrote that up in my Sarah Bond interview from E3. Or, well, not E3. God, I wish they'd just call it E3. I can't. What do you call it? What do you call that period? Summer Game Fest? I ain't calling it Summer Game Fest. It's E3. It'll always be E3. Just like X will always be Twitter. But I think they took that really seriously, and they're going to be putting processes in place to have that oversight, because it does impact the brand. It impacts the way the brand looks. And Microsoft doesn't have the best brand perception across the board right now. You know, like even disregarding Xbox, like Windows, like you ask the average Joe what they think of Microsoft, and it's usually a negative kind of thing, you know. But these are the challenges that Xbox has to overcome, and you know, one way that they can cut through this is by offering good value, high quality, and doing it consistently. You know, like we've seen CD Projekt Red sort of turn around its image by doubling down on Cyberpunk, releasing that incredible anime, Cyberpunk Edge Runners,
Mm-hmm.
and then the trailer for Cyberpunk 2077 DLC. Don't call it a DLC. They want me to call it an expansion. When I messaged PR and saying, so like talking about the DLC, they say it's not a DLC, it's an expansion. But it's a DLC, download content, right? It's a DLC expansion. Let's call it that. But they're showing off all the new features in the game, like completely revamped talent trees and all that kind of stuff. And you know, it's kind of making Cyberpunk delivering on its vision. Like even stuff like revamping the police AI, which never bothered me, because I always just saw the police are just there for flavor, you know. But some people really wanted the Grand Theft Auto experience from Cyberpunk for some reason. So they've added this whole police crime system now, based on player feedback. So it's that kind of stuff, doubling down on actually rewarding people who stick by you, and that's, you know, what Microsoft has to do, and they have to keep doing it, and they have to keep doing it consistently. And every time they do a Redfall thing, every time there's a Redfall thing, there's a knock on that. You know, it's like one step forward and then one step backwards, right? So they could release, I don't know, Starfield could release and hit like 100 out of 100 on Metacritic, you know. And then like the next big game they release, like Perfect Dark. What if Perfect Dark's another Redfall, you know? Complete mess and derivative and just sort of like a tragic, poorly thrown together game. And that'll undo the goodwill they built for the brand on Xbox, right? So yeah, hopefully that we'll start seeing that more consistently now. But
yeah,
ABK is going to throw a whole load of additional complexity on top of that fire as well.
Yeah. Mr. J, he has a super chat. He says, "What comfy gaming headphones do you guys recommend?"
Ooh.
I mean, you're the headphone person, Jez. I mean, I can tell you what I use. I usually use my Astro 50s. Very comfy.
I don't think they're the comfiest. Have you got the fabric ones?
These are the older ones. These are, I think, maybe like Gen 2, not the newer Gen 3 ones or whatever. So,
right. Like my issue with the Astro 50, well, it depends on your budget. Like I've launched into a whole discussion about Xbox headsets. I've tested a lot of Xbox headsets in my time.
So what's the comfiest one? What's the comfiest one?
If we're talking about comfy value and you don't care about having a wire, HyperX CloudX is, in my opinion, the comfiest headset while also retaining a very rich cinematic sound profile. But if you want to get more expensive, the more recent Turtle Beach Stealth Pro, I actually really love that headset. Leatherette, coolant gel in the ear cups, feels really, really nice. There's also like the LS35X, which also has coolant gel in the ear cups. I love headsets that have coolant gel in the ear cups, if you couldn't tell. The issue with the LS35X is the on-ear controls aren't that great, and you know the sound isn't incredible, but it's pretty cheap, you know. So yeah, I also Arctis, and a lot of people are saying Arctis Nova Pro. Arctis Nova Pro is like headset I use mainly in the UK. I love that headset as well. Very, very comfy, but it's also very, very expensive. And also the A50s are also comfy, but they have fabric ear cups out of the box. So it feels kind of like wearing earmuffs, and I hate that. You can buy aftermarket leatherette things, which feel nicer, but I don't know. But yeah, those are headsets. However, Rand, the headset I'm using right now is actually the Razer Hammerhead earbuds for podcasting, because you can plug them into your PC and plug them into your Xbox as well. And they're just earbuds. They sound pretty decent, and they're earbuds, so no fatigue on your head and stuff like that. So if you want earbuds, the Razer Hammerheads aren't terrible. The sound is amazing, and the microphone's obviously not very great, but if you just want comfort and earbuds, they're pretty damn good and versatile, Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's headsets. Tangent for you.
Headsets. Jez is the headset master. He has them all. You should give some away to the people on the Discord, because I know you have a ton of them.
Yeah, I will. Like, I usually I hang on to them in case like the teams that gave me the review units want them back or whatever. But I usually ask if, like, unless I've had it for like 5 years or something, I usually ask if it's okay to do a giveaway, because I can't sell them. It's kind of like, it's unethical, I think, to sell them, because I'm benefiting financially from the review unit then. But we can do giveaways. Yeah, so join our Discord, discord.gg/XB2.
Dead Planet says, looking back post-Colin interview, is there any argument you guys wish you had made, or a point you brought up that now you think, I wish I had said?
Actually, yeah. For me.
Oh, really? For you? Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but like I saw some people posting clips on Twitter, and I was like, man, I wish I'd said this, and man, I wish I'd said that.
Who was posting clips? Was it Nicola? Was Nick out there posting clips of that episode? Because I know he loves.
I don't know.
Stuff.
I can't follow him, man. He seems like a good guy outside the console stuff, but I just can't stand his tweets, man. They just make me cringe so much.
He does that. He just does it he just trolls. You know that, right? That's the whole. That's the whole.
Be nice.
Yeah, but the whole thing is Twitter doesn't engage positivity. It engages negativity, and you want engagements and money. Now people can make money off of it. I mean, what do you expect?
Dude, I'm not I'm not hating on Sony 24/7 for engagement, and I get pretty decent engagement. Post some bloody memes. Post a picture of beans, for God's sake. People love that shit.
So what argument would you?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I honestly can't remember, but I do remember thinking that. So I'll have to do another debate with him or something at some point.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Jay Rembert says, happy birthday, Rand. Thank you. He says, our team, the White Sox, is a bleeping show right now. Looking forward to this Friday's show in regards to Starfield. Yeah, the White Sox suck. They might as well just start a rebuild. They're absolutely horrible. So, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? Right?
We're a baseball podcast again?
A baseball podcast. No. I know there's the CMA stuff, which Phil talks about here, but we'll mention that a little bit later, because I don't really want to talk about that at this point in time, right? Phil did talk about the consoles, the Series X and the Series S, right? And this is where we're going to be getting into the mid-gen refresh stuff, and where we're going to be getting into the parity stuff with Baldur's Gate. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, and please subscribe if you're new. So Destin says, let's talk about the Series X. The console's 3 years old. Where are we with the timeline of the console? Are we at the beginning, or are we in the middle? Phil says, I think we're kind of at the end of the beginning, if that makes any sense. I think the supply issues early on lengthened the beginning to some extent, both on cost as well as just availability. I think from a game dev standpoint, not just us, but third parties, really just now starting to see, I think, the swell of games that got slowed up through COVID production now starting to launch. I think we have 85 games launching in the industry between now and tomorrow. It seems like there's so many games coming right now that we're starting to get through the beginning of this generation, and hopefully into a place where, as an owner of a console, you've got games that are taking full advantage of the hardware and are great games for people to go play. And I look at that lineup over the rest of this year from third parties alone, and it's fantastic. Yeah, the end of this year is ridiculous. I mean, you're talking about right now, like Sea of Stars. It's kind of like then rolls into Starfield, then you got Forza, then you got the Cyberpunk expansion, you got Alan Wake 2, you got Spider-Man 2, you got new Assassin's Creed.
Are you interested in Sea of Stars?
Am I interested in what?
Sea of Stars.
I'm not interested.
It's a JRPG.
No, I'm not interested in Sea of Stars. Are you interested in it?
Hell yeah.
Are you going to play it?
Persona 5. I am. I'm going to finish Persona first, though. I'm going to finish it this year.
Okay.
I'm telling you, man.
So they asked Phil, what's next for gaming hardware? Are better graphics still enough to differentiate? And Phil says, I think better graphics, more realistic feel will always be important. I also love that different form factors are coming out. I thought what Valve did with the Steam Deck was awesome. I'm traveling with my ROG Ally when I'm here having a great time playing games. I feel like it's a remote Xbox for me. I log in, my community's there, my games are there. All devs should support cross-save. So that's to you, Remnant 2 team. I'm playing a ton of Remnant 2, but I can't move to PC. But I just love the fact that I'm able to take my save games where I go and play. So I love that hardware is becoming more diverse both in price point and in form factor and usability so that more people are playing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Phil's point about Remnant, I think they did confirm that they are exploring cross progression. Like, it's hard with cross progression because you basically have to have some kind of server infrastructure to make that happen. Like, Larian and called CD Projekt Red. They've got like a internal system for this stuff. So like when I play Cyberpunk on my ROG Ally, which runs it incredibly well, by the way, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man. Playing a game that looks like Cyberpunk on a handheld. It's just mind blowing. I would never have thought that possible as a kid. But they've got a system. You log in with your CD Projekt Red, log in, and then boom, my Xbox saves are on my ROG Ally, which is sweet, right? And the more I use the ROG Ally, which is frequently because, you know, TV battles and all that kind of stuff, the more I sort of yearn to have a cross save, a cross progression. And obviously you get that a lot with Xbox Game Pass because a lot of these games are designed for Xbox Play Anywhere. Starfield's Xbox Play Anywhere. And when I download Starfield on my PC via the Microsoft Store, it starts downloading my Xbox saves to it and stuff like that, which is sweet. But, you know, most PC games aren't on the Microsoft Store. We've talked about this a lot. Microsoft Store is, and it's beyond an afterthought. If your game isn't on Game Pass, no dev's going to port to the Microsoft Store. You know, we saw a few games come to the Microsoft Store in the past, sort of like voluntarily, but it is so rare. It is so damn rare for a game to volunteer into the Microsoft Store. Even though Microsoft offers they offer a better cut than Steam for games. I think it's similar to the Epic Game Store. Speaking of which, Rand, did you see that the Epic Game Store now is offering 100% revenue to devs?
Well, 100% is zero, still zero. That's the problem.
Oh man, you're gonna do them like that?
I mean, that's the problem with both the Xbox Store on PC and the Epic game. It doesn't matter how much revenue you give to the developers if nobody is buying your games on those stores. It doesn't matter if you're giving them 100% because nobody's buying the games on these stores. I'm sorry, 100% is zero, still zero.
Man, why is Rand so mean to Epic Games?
I mean, it's just the truth, bro.
Yeah, it is the truth. But it's not just like Epic Game Store. It's like, no, good old God Galaxy as well. Good old games, which is CD Projekt Red's, you know, Steam basically. Nobody uses it. It's a very good platform. The UI is great. Works very well, and the deals are really good via God Galaxy. Just nobody uses it. Like Steam is just too damn embedded. It's the whole like iPhone thing. Like, how do you get if someone's got an iPhone and they've got all their stuff on iTunes and stuff? Why would they bother switching to Android? Like it's like a concerted effort to make the switch. And it works both ways. Like, why would I bother switching to iPhone when I got all my stuff on Android and it's fine, you know, for what it is? And that's the kind of issue that Microsoft, Epic Games, and all these studios have is like, everyone's on Steam. You know, the only way Microsoft can sort of coax people over is with the Game Pass bag, and it does seem to have been working. I would say it works better than probably what Epic Games Store has been doing. But Microsoft also said this will be the first year they make $1 billion from PC, although a huge amount of that is probably Steam. But anyway, ramble.
Mm-hmm.
I just opened the God Galaxy. It's such a nice app. It's a really, really nice app. It's a shame no one used it. The Xbox app has actually gotten a lot better recently as well. I need to write about this week because I've attacked this app to death. I'm someone who's been just non-stop. This app sucks. Scrap it. Whatever. There's been some updates to the Xbox app recently on PC, and it's actually pretty damn good now. So,
hey, I know.
Baby steps.
I know. Todd was at Gamescom, right? Because he's like, I've never been to Gamescom. I'm finally here. Did you get to talk to Todd?
I did. I spoke to Todd.
Yes?
Not only that, Rand. Wow, I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but He listens to the podcast.
No, he doesn't. That's a lie. God Howard does not listen to the Xbox 2. That's a lie. That's a lie from hell. That's a lie from hell.
I was like, at first I was like, oh wow, Todd's just being nice and encouraging. But dude, he knew you by name.
What?
He knew you by name.
Todd Howard knows me?
Yeah, he knew you by name. He's like, you podcast with Rand. So it's kind of like, you know, I would have assumed that he was just being nice or whatever, but he knew you by name. So clearly he's familiar with the podcast. And he also said, he also talked about localization article that I wrote, and you know, because they hired a producer for Arabic and a producer for Korean language localization for Starfield, and he mentioned my article about localization. So that was pretty incredible. That was probably.
So are you saying right now Todd Howard could be listening right now? Are you saying that? Is this something that could be happening?
I got a feeling he's not listening right now because he's probably.
But he might be listening on Friday, or do you?
Maybe, I don't know. He might get some clips or something from our segment about whether or not his game was good. But yeah, he did say that he's looking forward to hearing about all the opinions about the game, and I was just stunned that he even knew what it was. So yeah, that was.
Well, you think you're
cool
stunned?
moment.
I mean, you're Jez Corden, Windows Central. I'm just a little old YouTuber. It doesn't even. We don't even do camera. And Todd literally said, "Yeah, I listen to your podcast with Rand." Like, what? That you can't just drop that in here without me like. Now I'm just like, wait a minute, because he went up to Colt. He Colt was at E3 and he like grabbed Colt and was like, "Hey Colt, I'm a big fan. I watch your videos." And Colt was just like, "Are you kidding me? Like Todd watches my videos?"
Yeah.
And now you're saying that Todd listens. So can we like put out a tweet where it's like, come listen to the Todd Howard approved Xbox 2 podcast?
Yeah, maybe. I just kind of like. I think like they get briefed on, you know, who's in the community and what people are doing and kind of stuff like that. Of course they do, right?
Sure.
But it just goes to show that they're aware of the community. Like it's not just our podcast. It's you guys' podcast too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like our content is shaped by you guys listening to the show, and that sort of feedback loop that goes back to Todd. It goes back to Phil, which is why it's important that we remain critical and call them out and ask for better. And you know, there's clear evidence that asking for better works, because we highlighted Windows Central. And on this podcast too, we highlighted the fact that Koreans and people in Arabic countries, they had petitions up to get the games localized in their languages. And we wrote an article about that. It blew up on social. It blew up on Google. It was trending on Google News. They noticed that. I shared the feedback with them, and now they're putting that plan into action. And that's ultimately how I see this job, and what our role is as podcasters, is to work towards a better product. And you know, it's you guys as well to thank for that. Yeah, so
BG's in chat saying Rand is blushing. I'm not blushing. Like my cheeks aren't all red. I'm just surprised that Todd Howard of all people would listen to Xbox 2 podcast. It's just, you know, I understand. I understand like Phil Spencer maybe listening to it or being aware of it, or other people at Xbox. I mean, I know people at Xbox do listen to it from the conversations I have, right? But Todd Howard of all people, I'm just kind of flabbergasted that he would want to. Because it's not like this is a Bethesda podcast, you know.
No.
So the fact that he would even be aware of it, let alone listen to it, is and like know, like, oh yeah, I know Rand or whatever. I've never met him. It's not like I went to E3 or what have you, and I don't know. It's just kind of it's unbelievable to me. I wouldn't think that in a million years. So I wouldn't say I'm blushing, BG. So I wouldn't go that far, because that's not like, it's more just I just don't believe it, and still I don't believe it. I still think Jez is pulling my leg.
Well, when would I ever do that? I've never pulled your leg, man.
You always pull my leg. Jackson Super Chat says, Rand, you're a big deal. Get used to it. I'll never get used to that. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it is kind of weird how big the podcast has gotten over the years, but it just sort of, you just have to keep reminding yourself what the responsibility is, or you'll end up like Linus Tech Tips with a big scandal.
Yeah, and that was like a big thing for a couple days. And is anybody even talking about that anymore? I don't even know.
Probably not. Well, that's the same with any drama, right? But I actually did get called out for accuracy because on the the interview, I'm calling myself out here, by the way. In the interview with the guest show with Colin, I said that Genshin Impact was owned by Tencent. It is not owned by Tencent.
Oh, okay.
We regret the error. Xbox 2 Productions.
Well, that's you.
However, I thought Hoyoverse was like had investment from Tencent or something, and it was sort of like within their sphere, Tencent's sphere of whatever you call it, influence. But no, they're totally separate, and apparently they actually rejected Tencent's attempt to muscle in on their turf. So that's kind of cool, right? But yeah, there's the correction.
Could you get Todd on Xbox 2+1? He did Lex Freeman's. Yeah, but Lex Freeman's podcast is massive, though. So
Lex Freeman?
I doubt we could get Todd on Xbox 2+1. I doubt it very much.
We'll try. You know, I think like we are at a point where we could potentially get some, you know, bigger names into the plus one thing, which is one of the reasons why, Rand, I think we should discuss doing it twice a month.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I guess if we can't have 2 people a month, we just would do Ultimate in the place of it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about that.
I mean, we do have the 300th episode of Xbox 2 coming up. We should get Phil on for that.
Yeah, we should try.
That wouldn't happen. He wouldn't come on. He's like, let me come on the podcast where one of the guys on there is blacklisted by a couple of my studios. You know.
Well, I could step aside. You could do it with Gaz.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Can you imagine Gaz and Phil in the same podcast together? Oh my god.
They love Gaz. Like, you know, like they think Gaz is funny. You know?
I mean, Gaz is funny.
Yeah. They know Gaz. That's the thing. They're involved and embedded in the community. You know, and Colin was even talking about this on the XB2+1 on my channel, where he was talking about how the PlayStation employees, they don't get involved in the community like Xbox does, and that like Xbox has a completely different community landscape to PlayStation, where we all jump across on each other's podcasts and we're all friends and stuff, and we hang out. Like, and I suppose FanFest is part of that, you know. But it started before FanFest. It started on Twitter. I think the camaraderie around people who just like, you know, wanted to stick with Xbox despite all the hate that it gets and was getting, you know. There's a camaraderie there, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. That's a completely another discussion.
You got Cold Will with their first super chat. Thank you. He says, they say, in an interview, Phil mentioned the Steam Deck and the ROG by name. With other OEMs making handhelds, what are the chances of a dedicated handheld OS? Happy birthday, Rand. Thank you. And I think we've talked about this before, Jez, right? About either Xbox making their own handheld or there being a dedicated handheld. Oh, isn't that something Windows is doing or something, if I'm not mistaken?
Right, so there won't be a dedicated operating system, I don't think. And the reason for that is you need the benefit and the problem with PC gaming is often just Windows. You kind of need all that bloat that is inherent of Windows to get some of that stuff working. Like, I could run Wasteland 1, the original Wasteland 1 from the 80s. I could pull that out and run that just fine on Windows 11, like using DOSBox or something. You know, it's like the ultimate backwards compatibility. But the downside is, of course, that it's it's bloated, and it's sort of a drain on the resources of a handheld, where handhelds, the resources are restricted, right? So while I don't think there'll be a dedicated operating system because you do need some of that bloat, I do think what they're going to do is they're going to make a shell for it. They're going to make like a special shell where it will detect that it's running on some kind of device like a Steam Deck or like a ROG or the Legion, the Lenovo Legion Go, which leaked by some asshole. I think that was me as well. Damn it. Lenovo didn't blacklist me though. Thanks, Lenovo. Good sports. I don't think they won't make a dedicated OS, but they will make a shell, so it'll detect that it's on that device, and it'll be like, okay, we are in handheld mode now. We'll get rid of the start menu. We'll get rid of all that stuff. We'll make it touch optimized. It'll look nicer, and it'll just give you straight into your games or your social features or whatever. And then if you want to, you can click out into full-blown Windows, similarly to how you can click out to full-blown Linux on the Steam Deck if you are completely crazy. Because, boy, oh boy, clicking out of the Steam OS into Linux is scary, Rand. It is scary. I don't want to offend any Linux bros in chat, because Linux bros are passionate people. But when you're a Windows user and you go into Linux, it's kind of like you're wandering into a dark forest, and there's like red eyes glaring at you from out of the gloom. Linux is fearful and frightening. I kind of feel like when you use Linux, you kind of need like some kind of engineering degree to actually do anything on it. But yeah, look forward to that. We should have hopefully some information about that in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Handheld mode.
So Phil talked about mid-gen upgrades, and so I mean, you straight up asked, do you have any news about some sort of mid-generation refresh for Xbox? No, I think that sort of question is a little bit loaded, right? Because
yeah, of course it is.
If you ask that question to PlayStation, if Jim Ryan was in Phil's space, he would obviously say no. Because as we know from Tom Henderson, it's not planned on coming out until the end of next year. There's no way they would say, oh yeah, we're totally doing one, because people might not buy the PS5. So I figured, you would know that Sony would have a similar answer. But he did ask this to Phil, and Phil said, no. We're doing right now the increased storage on the S, but no, like I said, we're kind of at the end of the beginning in my mind. So I think we need to let devs settle on this hardware and get the most out of it. But in terms of increased frame rate, increased resolution, I just like what goes on the PC with high-end GPUs and high-end CPUs, and it's not always just pixel count or frame resolution. I think there's lighting techniques. There's a bunch of things that go into what makes a game look and feel great, and we have a ton of headroom as an industry there. So, I mean, you could say that's puts a kibosh, essentially, on Xbox doing a mid-gen refresh. But even if they had plans on doing a mid-gen refresh, I feel like this would be the answer Phil would give regardless. He's not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, you know what? Mid-gen refresh, of course. Just wait a couple years for that,
So you think they'll... Even though Phil sort of downplayed it,
no,
you think there's still a chance that they'll do it?
My gut right now says they won't, but I'm not. But I'm not saying this interview is definitive proof, because that's what else is he supposed to say? Like, it would be the same answer. Like, let's imagine maybe they want to do it like they did with the Xbox One X, where Sony does mid-gen refresh next year in 2024, and Xbox does one in 2025, right? Or maybe they even decide to launch next gen early in 2026. You wouldn't talk about that in 2023. I mean, hell, we've seen leaks of Sony's PS5 Slim, right? We've seen pictures of it. We know that it's coming. There's another price drop on that's happening in the UK because they're trying to clear stock. And
£75 off. I've been so tempted by that.
You should. Might as well.
I want to play Final Fantasy 16. But then I'm just like, man.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox probably at some point now with that whole Square Enix thing. But you might have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, it's coming to PC.
Yeah, and it's coming to PC.
And I want to play Ghost of Tsushima, and I want to play Final Fantasy 16.
Ghost of Tsushima is supposed to come to PC.
Well, exactly, and it's like,
but the thing is,
I just want to spend money for the sake of spending.
You've waited this long. What's waiting a little bit more? Like, you didn't play Final Fantasy 16 when it came out. At this point, you might as well wait for a PC version. But I mean, I understand. Like, you want a PS5, and it is an attractive price. But the Slim's supposed to be coming out next month, and they still haven't even talked about it at all. I'm just saying, So when I look at this interview for I'm just like, this doesn't mean anything. I still don't think they're doing one, but I don't necessarily think this interview means anything, because they wouldn't say, oh yeah, you know what, Destin, we're totally thinking about it, and check back in with us in 2 years when we release one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. But I suppose he had to ask. It's something everyone's discussing right now.
Sure.
Um,
And I'm sure
this is why I suck at doing interviews, because like I already know what they're gonna say. So I think, well, what's the point of asking that?
because
Like if it was me doing the interview, I wouldn't have even bothered asking that, even though because I know what the answer's going to be, and it would have been something like that, where it's a sort of
but it would
non-committal.
you could get a lot of clicks on it and stuff. So that's
Oh,
how
yeah,
the stuff
I know.
goes. But the kind of other big news
That's why I'm terrible at interviews.
out of Gamescom was the Baldur's Gate Xbox Series S situation, because
Oh yeah.
Baldur's Gate is now coming to Xbox this year, where before it sounded like maybe it was coming next year. They never said it wasn't coming. They always said that they just needed more time. They clearly prioritized the PC version and the PlayStation version. And I've even talked about my conspiracy theory scenario where the game they weren't going to release the game this year anyways because of Starfield, right? That I'm not saying they were using the Series S as an excuse, because I fully believe they were having problems, but when you're prioritizing what you're going to release, it's like PC is the number one and PS5. And when you look at when they were planning on releasing it, literally right on the day of Starfield, it doesn't really make sense to release that game across Starfield at all on the Xbox side. It does for PlayStation, right? Because they don't have an exclusive until Spider-Man 2. And with all the hype surrounding Baldur's Gate 3 from the PC release, it makes a ton of like, they played this beautifully is what I'm saying. Kudos to Larian, because they were able.
I don't think they did this on purpose, man.
No. You see, there's a part of me that thinks, look, it may not have been on purpose, but I think the chips fell in such a way that they benefited from it. It worked out for them because I think the chips fell in that way where it's like, okay, our team of 400, right? We're prioritizing the PC and the PS5 version. We have our release date. We are doing the Xbox version, but we need more time because of Series S, right? So they announced their release date of August 31st. Then literally 2 weeks later, Starfield's like, by the way, we're September 6th, and our release date, early access, is September 1st, which is actually August 31st, which is the same day as Baldur's Gate 3. So to them, it was probably like, all right, we don't need to really focus that much on the Xbox version because Starfield's coming out at the same time it would have been. So we'll kind of push more for PC. They moved the PC version away from Starfield, right? It was August 31st, same day as Starfield. Then it was August 3rd, so they moved it clear away from Starfield on the PC side of things. And then they they delayed it on PS5 to launch across of Starfield, which is brilliant because that gives PlayStation guys something to talk about, something to brag about, right? Because you have them on social media talking about that game, how it's a console exclusive, blah, 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 right? So people are pre-ordering it because it's really good. So you hit all that sort of stuff. And on the Xbox side, it's like, okay, and now when you talk about the Xbox, you put it out later because you're not going to put it on around Starfield because everybody on Xbox is going to be playing Starfield for free. So nobody is going to be buying your game on Xbox because they have another game that's sort of similar that they can all play for free. So you wait. And as we know now that it's coming out this year. So to me, there's only really two places to put it out in. That's either November or December. You could release it on Xbox in November after all the Game of the Year nominations, when Baldur's Gate probably has like 10 nominations. And you can finally release it on Xbox then, and people would be really interested in playing it because they might be done with Starfield, they might be done with all the October games, and November doesn't really seem that packed. So you could easily release Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox to tie it into the nominations and get a third wind of sales, because right, you got the first with PC, you're going to get your second wind with the PlayStation release, you get your third with the Xbox. And if you don't have it done in time on November, you can time it for December after the Game Awards, when it probably wins a whole bunch of when it wins a whole bunch of awards from the Keeleys, maybe even Game of the Year, probably wins a whole bunch of Game of the Year noms from a bunch of different websites. You can run some trailer that talks about the Xbox version and having all the quotes from reviewers, and then it's December, there's nothing to play on Xbox. Well, here's Baldur's Gate 3, the Game of the Year, right? So I'm not saying they planned it, but I think everything fell in such a way that they benefited from it. Because even here with it was Destin was talking about it to Phil, right? Destin says the Baldur's Gate 3 team brought up some issues with the Series S and split screen, getting it to work properly. I know the Forza team announced that it won't launch with local split screen. Is there some future where you allow developers just to launch on the Series X versus S because there's parity clause right now? And I'm curious, will that ever be loosened up a bit? You know, this thing, the parity clause, where we talked about it last week, where I even played devil's advocate when I was like, hey, you might need to hold firm on this because if you bend on this parity, then other developers might come to you and be like, hey, we're having problems too, wink, wink. We don't want to ship this feature on the Series S. And I was like, you got to stand firm. But, I mean, it sounds like they at least bent for Larian, and which we'll talk about. We're getting to now and all the information. But Phil says, I wanted to couple these issues a little bit. The decision to do split screen or not is a creative decision, a dev decision. So if we think about Forza, it has nothing to do with any kind of hardware thing on the S or the X. It's just where they wanted to focus their time. We obviously see the data in terms of how many people play local co-op for games. I love local co-op. Shout out to Vampire Survivors, right? But there's also just a let's go where they plays in terms of where we're going to focus our dev resources. In terms of two platforms, I want games to launch on both. There are feature differences between the platforms. We have an ability to kind of handle that and how it works. Where teams are going to choose to focus their time and their effort is up to them. We're here to support them and what they want to go do. We want to make sure that games, when they're launching on competitive platforms, are also launching on Xbox. So we're going to learn from this experience as well because we don't love that. But I don't think it's something that's a fatal flaw in the system. It's partners prioritizing their game, us listening and being a good partner to them. And you see some amazing games doing great work across the S and the X, blah, 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 blah. Phil was then asked, the conversation going around, and Phil says, yeah, no, I think it's a fair question. I will say that some of the discussion in the community has maybe not come from us or the devs. It's been more the community building. Well, this happened, and then that happened, and then so it must be about this. And I think we can do more to add clarity to actually where we are, and I look forward to doing that.
I think, like, what ultimately happened here, and I was thinking about this while you're talking, but, like, Larian is aggressively open with this community. They are probably the best crowdfunded dev, like in terms of what they've deliver on the market. And part of crowdfunding is you have to be sort of transparent with your audience, right? So when people say to them, why is XYZ not happening? They don't give a shit. They're just like, we're just going to tell the truth. It's the Xbox Series S getting split screen co-op working. I think that kind of blindsided Microsoft because they're probably not used to working with a dev who just does not give a fuck about Microsoft's marketing, you know. And I think it's a good thing because this is gonna, like what Phil was saying, we need to be transparent about the way some of this works because people are interested. And a lot of the discourse, he's right. A lot of the discourse about this was not from devs. It was from us. It was from everyone in the community trying to work out why doesn't Forza have split screen? Why didn't Halo Infinite get split screen? Is the Series S ready to blame for all these problems? You know, because we extrapolate based on the available information that we have, which often isn't a great amount of information. You know, we're working on. None of us are devs, or most of us here aren't devs. There is some devs who listen, like shout out to Sedox, for example. But there's like we're not devs, so like I'm specifically, furthermore, we're not devs on that specific game because it's not like dev is a linear path either. You know, like one dev might have an opinion about something that can be completely off base based on the engine and the development pipeline that another studio has for their game. You know, development is not a linear path. I think that's kind of what Phil was saying there. Like they chose what was best for their game, which ultimately was to build it PC first and then backport it. But they didn't account for the Series S issues, which is honestly fair enough because the game was kickstarted to be a PC game originally anyway. And that's kind of what they're known for, right? And then when it did come down to it, the engine didn't backport that well to the Series S. And now they've got this issue where they've probably got to retrofit some aspects of the game, and Microsoft's on task to help them with that. But the thing is, it's like whatever the case is, whatever the case may be, and why this happened, I'm concerned about the end user. I'm concerned about the people who listen to this show. I'm concerned about the people who buy the console, and the people who are wondering where the hell is the game of the year, probably game of the year 2023, not on my console, because Microsoft decided to do an Xbox Series S, which I may or may not even own. So I think more transparency is good. Obviously, of course, it's good. And will it lead to a pervasive change in the way they handle this stuff? I think Microsoft will probably be more transparent with devs from the outset about how to sort of get the most out of the Series S from the beginning of development, because I do think that's where some of these issues lie. Is like the pipeline you build from the outset. At least that's what some people have told me about it. And Microsoft can maybe do a better job there. Microsoft can be more clear with us about the state of the Xbox Series S and where it is as a platform, what they're thinking of it is, because they could shut down a lot of these speculative and often negative discussions by just being a little bit more transparent. I would love to know how the Series S is doing. Like, I'd love to know what the feedback looks like from people who actually own it and use it. Because, like, if I got a Series S and used it just for testing purposes, it'd be a very different experience to someone who uses a Series S as their sole console. I will say that, if you guys remember, when I came back to Germany after the pandemic, I was stuck in England for a long time because of the pandemic rules. So during that time, I had my Xbox Series S XX in England, and I didn't have a Series X for Germany. So there was no stock. So I bought a Series S for a little while, and I just constantly missed the Series X. Like, why wouldn't you at the end of the day? Like, it was adequate and it was fine until it wasn't. And the game where it wasn't fine for me was Chivalry 2. The Chivalry 2 was 30 frames per second on the Series S when it launched. And I think now it's 60 frames per second after a bunch of updates. But initially it was 30 frames per second. And that was it for me. I was like, okay, this is what I'm missing out on here. And Chivalry is not a game you want to be playing at 30 frames, I don't think, personally. Especially once you've experienced it at 60 frames. And kudos to the devs for fixing that and making it 60. But it's that kind of uncertainty, man. You don't know which games are going to be 30 and which games are going to be 60 when it comes to the Series S. And I suppose that's on Microsoft to figure out.
Because I think one of the issues people have with this whole scenario, right, is this interview with Phil dropped on the 23rd. Even the one with Eurogamer, where Phil says, I don't see a world where we drop the S. In terms of parity, I don't think he heard from us or Larian that this is about parity. I think that's more the community talking about it. There are even features that ship on X today that do not ship on the S, even from our own games, like ray tracing that works on X. It's not on the S in certain games. So for an X customer, S, they spent roughly half of what the X customer bought. They understand it's not going to run the same way. I want to make sure games are available on both. That's our job as a platform holder, and we're committed to that with our partners. And I think we're going to get there with Larian, so I'm not overly worried about that. But we learned some stuff through that. Having an entry-level price for price point for our console sub 300 is a good thing for the industry. I think it's important. The Switch has been able to do that. Blah 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 blah. Right. So this was on the 23rd, but then on the 25th, the official Xbox account tweets out, in partnership with the talented people at Larian Studios, we're thrilled to share Baldur's Gate 3 will be coming to Xbox later this year. Stay tuned for more details. And what the Larian people were saying is that they're going to be shipping the Series S version without split-screen co-op, right? Xbox then does say, to answer some questions we're getting, we'll continue to work with Larian to explore the addition of split-screen on Series S post-launch. Now, Phil did say that he was going to be meeting with Larian during Gamescom, right, in these interviews, which happened on the 23rd. And then 2 days later, all of a sudden, it's coming this year, and it doesn't have split-screen co-op. So I guess the question is, what happened in those interviews, or what happened in those meetings, and was parity bent? Because it does seem like on the outside looking in, they bent parity for this, and a lot of people are calling Phil just a liar for it. I mean, what do you think about all that, Jazz? Do you think it was just one thing was just like, Baldur's Gate's just this huge game of the year game. We need it on our platform sooner rather than later. We'll bend on split screen coming. That's perfectly fine. You know, because they talk about one thing 2 days before, and then all of a sudden the game's coming this year. 2 days later, it's kind of odd how quickly that all came together. No. Uh-oh. I think Jez's mic is muted.
Oh, yeah, I was muted. Sorry about that. These things move. I think these things move quickly. Like, especially when you can get in front of someone and speak to them personally. And that's basically what they said happened at Gamescom. They actually met up personally and talked about it and what solutions they can offer and stuff. And I suppose it was ultimately a case of, okay, the solution we can offer is that we'll bend on when split screen comes, as long as you guys commit to it. And it does seem like they are committed to doing it. And Microsoft is going to be involved in helping make that happen. However they plan to do it. I would not be surprised if they end up giving up on it. Because that's a lot of overhead to make that work, I think. It might just be a case of their engine, because their engine does support that kind of gameplay. It's not like it's new for Baldur's Gate 3. They even had it in Divinity Original Sin 1, where you've got the split screen co-op stuff within that sort of dynamic world. It's really cool, and it's one of the things that's really unique to that team, and like the games they make. So, but at the same time, it's like they've compromised it for devices where it makes sense. Like split screen isn't on the Steam Deck, for example, because, well, Steam Deck for one is generally a personal device. You can dock it and boot and run it to a TV and stuff like that. But they disabled it by default on the Steam Deck. However, people have unlocked it via mods and stuff, which again is something you could do on PC stuff. But yeah, I suppose we'll wait and see. I don't think this will happen very often, where a specific dev has a specific issue that sort of holds up the entire version of a game on our platform because of something like this. I don't think you're going to see this regularly. I suppose the fear was, could it happen regularly? If the Series S if it really is a case of power, and the Series S just not having the kind of power that it needs for these features where devs want to use the overhead and the PS5 and the Series X to do these kinds of features, that kind of leaves the Series S out in the lurch. And to be honest, that's why the Nintendo Switch misses out on a lot of AAA games. It's purely because they doesn't have the power that the games need.
Nobody cares that the Baldur's Gate 3 is not coming to Switch.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? Nobody ever... Switch just avoids any discourse when it comes to power.
I will say, I'll say this, though. If Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't a Game of the Year candidate and wasn't just huge game, I don't think you hear any of this, and I don't think they bend. Like, if Baldur's Gate 3 was just your run-of-the-mill experience that was, 7 or 8 out of 10, was just okay, I don't think you get any of this. I don't think you get it blown up in this position where they publicly have to sort of backtrack, and they have. But the other issue is, I think people, and Phil mentioned in this interview, is how people conflate everything. It's like, all right, so Baldur's Gate devs have a problem with split screen on Series S. And then all of a sudden, like the Forza, they're like, oh, they're not doing Series S. And Halo Infinite didn't do split screen on Series S, right? Now there's this Lord of the Rings game, some Moria survival game that looks like ass, is delayed on Xbox. And everybody, anything that's wrong, here's the thing that's the problem, is anything that's wrong with Xbox when it comes to game releases or features, no matter what happens, no matter what the truth will be, it'll always be blamed on the Series S. From this point forward until the Series S is stopped being supported. Because these companies are very secretive about what's really happening. I mean, we were all like, hey, why isn't Baldur's Gate 3 coming to Xbox? Right? And they were like, it is, but we can't tell you why it isn't right now. And then eventually they're like, oh, by the way, we're having these problems, right? Normally you wouldn't get that info. It would all be, they they keep it internal or whatever. But any sort of problem, like if there's a big game in the future that is delayed on Xbox but comes out on PlayStation, people will immediately blame the Series S. This is what it's going to come down to, at least for the social media sphere, of like, oh, Series S rears its ugly head again, right? Because
it depends on the game. Like if it's a like graphically intensive game, then sure. But there's a lot of games that just don't come to Xbox because I don't know, they're JRPGs, hyper niche, or whatever.
Well, I mean, sure, yeah, but I'm just saying, for the most part, a lot of the discourse will be around like the Series S and what it offers and what it can do. So, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to Xbox this year, probably November, December, if I had to guess. Which, it's great if you wanted to play it on Xbox. It's going to have cross-save, I believe, so you'll be able to import your Steam save and play it on Xbox if you want. Which is,
I don't know why you'd want to do that though.
Why? I mean, what? Because you don't want to play it?
It's an excuse to start over.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So I don't know. Like the whole, it's weird because I don't have a Series S. I guess for me it's like a Series X, and I understand a lot of people's position is like, hey, why aren't I getting Baldur's Gate 3? I have a Series X. Don't ruin my experience because of a console I don't own, right? There is that. But then I've seen it, Jez, where people are like, Series S older users should revolt. They should sue Microsoft. They were promised parity and all this sort of stuff, and they're not getting parity now. So Microsoft, they lied. Everybody should sue them because you're getting Baldur's Gate without local split-screen co-op.
I'm sure there's things in the terms of service that preclude people from being able to do that.
I don't know. There's also a part of me that's like, man, a lot of people complaining about a feature nobody ever uses. Like even Phil said in this article that nobody uses split screen for Forza, so they didn't bother to do it. They focused their attention on other stuff, right?
Well, but this is what I'm saying. Like there's people putting all over my timeline about this, and I was just like, bro, you don't care at all about playing split screen Baldur's Gate on a Series S. You don't give a shit about it. So what is this concern trolling bullshit? A lot of the discourse is literally just FUD, concern trolling, and just general Twitter bullshit.
Indeed,
as per usual.
Indeed. And speaking of bullshit, we have Special Nick in the chat, dropping a super chat.
Oh no, you're not gonna do Nick like that.
He says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Chomp chomp. Spicy no." Yeah.
Spicy.
I sent Nick that one TikTok I sent you where the guy was like, he's just like, I was dying. He's like, yes, gang, the whole TikTok and NPC meme. Yeah, so
I should do that. We should quit doing Xbox and just go to TikTok and just be like, gang, spicy, no spicy, no spicy.
Yeah, no spicy.
No.
We have Big Afroman saying, happy birthday. What's up with all the Starfield hate online? Is it just fanboys projecting hate because subconsciously they know it will be good? Would this hate happen if it was also on PS5? No, the hate would not happen if it was on PS5. If this was a multi-platform release, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I hate these sort of binary events where like you can't know for sure what it'd be like if the situation was different. I wish I had some kind of interdimensional Schrodinger's cat kind of device where I could be like, okay, show me a dimension where Starfield is still multi-platform, just so I could see the discourse and how it would be different, and then bring that discourse with me back to this dimension. I'd be like, look at the discourse when it's not exclusive. Are you sure that you really care about this, or are you just being a salty little bitch?
Well, the discourse is strictly around it being exclusive, 100%, right? Absolutely. I've never seen a group of people so upset about a game being exclusive in my life. They're like trying to tear it down. And they don't even know if it's good or bad. They're just
hanging on to every little leak, every grainy TikTok that's leaked from someone who's got it early, and they're hanging on to everything. And like some of these leaks are just so far removed from the reality of the game because they're lacking context. And I just say to people, just wait for the real information, because a lot of this stuff that you're hearing just isn't fully accurate and all that kind of stuff, and you just need to wait. And to be honest, Todd addressed a lot of the stuff with regards to the discourse, Todd's already addressed a lot of the way the systems work in that Lex Friedman podcast you were talking about.
Yep.
He talked about this stuff in depth, so it's not like the information isn't already out there, but it's painful, man. I've been like having a bit of a social media break just because I just hate seeing my replies, my mentions. I hate seeing people like linking me stuff from concerned trolls who just have who were gonna hate the game no matter what. They were gonna hate the game no matter what. They're just trying to sort of find a chink in the armor where they can insert their poison so they can get a little hate boner on rather than going outside and touching a bit of grass.
Absolutely.
It's really exhausting.
It'd be interesting to see in another universe if Starfield releases a PS5 exclusive like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, and we know Sony was trying to get how the reactions would be for the PlayStation guys versus the Xbox guys, right? Right, because that could have been a possibility. But yeah, it's I don't know if I've seen something like this before. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Jodicus says
it'll happen again when Xbox has another Zeitgeist kind of game. It'll happen all over again.
Maybe. I keep thinking about both.
To Halloween.
Well, no, I think it's happening for this game because a lot of PlayStation fans view it as this game should be on PlayStation. Like, if it wasn't for Xbox, this game would have launched on PlayStation 5, right? Whereas I don't know if you'd see that for Avowed. I don't know if you'd see that for Perfect Dark. Maybe you might see some for Hellblade 2 because the game did launch on PlayStation first. Right? But I think maybe this might be the only one. It's mainly because this game probably, they view it as it was supposed to be multi-platform. It was supposed to be on PlayStation. Is I think driving some of it. Jodicus says, I keep thinking about both of your theory about Xbox doing next gen early after the PS5 Pro. Smart of Xbox to decouple themselves from PlayStation and compete at their own pace, much like Nintendo. I mean, that's not really a theory of mine. I'm just saying you never know. It could be a possibility. We don't know what Microsoft is doing. It's Jez's theory. I don't really have a theory on it, right? So it seems like maybe it's possible, or at least Jez's, from what Jez, his theory on it. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they do it. Maybe they don't, right? And I mean, if you were planning on doing it, well, then it doesn't really make sense to do a mid-gen refresh. So we have Spartan661 saying, I was so hyped for Baldur's Gate 3. I want to play Starfield first. I'm wondering if Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a port, or did they really give Xbox the true development time on what the Series X can do? What do you guys think?
Well, every game's a port. Every game is developed first for PC. Sony won't admit it, but they develop their games first on Windows because that's what everybody does. It uses Windows tools, or like all the dev tools and all the programs, the 3D tools and all that kind of stuff. It's all Windows. So everything in history is a port at the end of the day. It's just like how much dev time is given to make the best use of the assets they've got available to them, the APIs and all that kind of stuff. I would hope that it is going to be polished. They're going to have, like 6 months worth of bug fixes probably to put through to the game. So it'll probably be more polished than Baldur's Gate 3 is right now, because honestly, they shipped out a patch yesterday that had 1,000 bug fixes in it. And at the point where I'm in the game, I was kind of happy to sort of take a break from Baldur's Gate 3, because I was getting to a point in the game where things were getting seriously buggy around. The logic was getting bad.
Well, I mean, people talked about how Act 3 is like bug filled.
A mess. Yeah. So like, but like Act 1 and Act 2, like those both together are at least sort of 50 hours of gameplay, So I think I'm towards the end of Act 2 now. So, I'm more than got my money's worth here. But I'd be happy to play Act 3 when it's a little bit more polished, because towards the end of this act, like my companions know things that they shouldn't know, like that they've forgotten that certain characters are dead and stuff like that, and it's just kind of really takes you out of the immersion when the branching narrative, as complicated as it is, it increases the chance of it failing, because there's a lot of moments where it's like, oh, they shouldn't know about this, or oh, why are they saying this happened, kind of thing. So I'm Yeah, I'm eager for it to be polished. I hope it is polished, and I suppose we'll see.
Yeah, Corey
Later this
says
year.
console players should really turn down the excitement on BG3. I stopped playing it because Act 3 runs so poorly. I have an i9 and a 4090 and it's still bad. Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I mean, the PlayStation 5, nobody knows what the PlayStation 5 version looks or runs at yet. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Tom Legg says, I'm just worried this is going to set a precedent. The Series S is going to keep missing out on features, despite Xbox's own website saying the games need to have the same modes on X and S. I mean, it's a possibility.
It's
I mean,
fair, but I think on this they really had to bend because it's ridiculous that Game of the Year would be indefinitely delayed, potentially Game of the Year.
Then again, it's like if
because of this,
if split screen's the thing that Xbox
that no one uses,
if split screen's the thing Xbox Series S has a problem with, most games don't do split screen. So.
Yeah.
But I will see. We know. I mean, I know that like developers don't want the extra work. Of course they don't. So they don't like the Series S just from that aspect of it's extra work for them, right? So I'm sure they're probably some of them were probably like, well, maybe we can give Microsoft an exception for this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. Maybe it does play out in the worst case scenario where a lot of games have S features stripped out or come later, or maybe it's just this is kind of a one-time thing. Maybe this is the one time it happens and it never happens again. I don't know. No idea how this is going to play out. And let me see. We have I think that's it. So well, Jez's favorite subject. Actually, no, we have one here from Face. It happened to Spider-Man 2018. Remember Puddlegate? Yeah, Puddlegate happened.
That's true.
I remember that.
That's true.
It always seems to happen more greatly for the exclusives. And I do remember the hate against Last of Us Part 2, but I think that was mostly...
that was Xbox fans.
No, that was an Xbox fans. That was mostly like the anti-woke crowd or whatever, that whole... because of what happened. And there was a lot of that going on with Last of Us Part 2. So... yeah. Achievement says there's already a 14 gigabyte update for Starfield. Corey Tidwell says, correction, Rand, if it wasn't for Sony and their money handing Starfield would be on PlayStation. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I guess we need to talk about ABK because something big happened.
Oh, what happened?
Something big happened. We have Microsoft essentially and Activision restructured the acquisition.
Oh no.
To comply with the CMA, and they brought in Ubisoft. So
you know what? I completely forgot about this.
I know, because it did happen last week when we were gone.
I thought you'd be sarcastic.
No, I mean it happened. So to address concerns about the impact of the proposed acquisition on cloud game streaming raised by the CMA, we are restructuring the transaction to acquire a narrow set of rights. This includes executing an agreement effective at closing of our merger that transfers the cloud streaming rights for all current and new Activision Blizzard PC and console games released over the next 15 years to Ubisoft, and the rights will be in perpetuity. As a result of the agreement with Ubisoft, Microsoft believes its proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard presents a different transaction under UK law. Blah, 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 blah. As such, Microsoft today has notified the restructured transaction to the CMA and anticipates the CMA review process can be completed before the 90-day extension its acquisition agreement with Activision Blizzard expires on October 18th. Under the restructured transaction, Microsoft will not be in a position either to release Activision Blizzard games exclusively on its own cloud streaming service, xCloud Cloud Gaming, or to exclusively control the licensing terms of Activision Blizzard games for rival services. The agreement provides Ubisoft with the unique opportunity to commercialize the distribution of games via cloud streaming. This agreement will enable Ubisoft to innovate and encourage different business models in the licensing and pricing of these games on cloud streaming services worldwide. And Ubisoft will compensate Microsoft for the cloud streaming rights to Activision Blizzard games through a one-off payment and through a market-based wholesale pricing mechanism, including an option that supports pricing based on usage. It will also give Ubisoft the opportunity to offer ABK's games to cloud gaming services running non-Windows operating systems. So,
Ew.
it's a big change. So essentially, Microsoft is selling the cloud gaming rights to ABK's games to Ubisoft. Ubisoft is paying them a one-time fee for it, and then Ubisoft can kind of do whatever they want with them. And they've sort of already said that it's going to come to Ubisoft Plus. It'll be on Xbox. It'll be on PC. It'll be on PlayStation consoles.
And all the previous deals Microsoft did with Boosteroid and all that shit.
Well, all the previous deals that they did with like Nvidia and Boosteroid they only work in the European Union, EU, I believe, while this CMA one, this Ubisoft one, is worldwide. So I guess Microsoft retained enough rights to fulfill those deals they made. It's odd because here you have a French company paying. It's so odd because it's like Ubisoft as a French company is paying Microsoft, an American company, a one-time fee to get these games, which then Microsoft is going to pay the French company to probably get those games on xCloud, which then the French company pays back to the American company on usage rights, and this is all supposed to somehow assuage the fears of a UK regulator? I mean...
It is ridiculous. It's a overly complicated mechanism, and I don't know. I mean, this is feelings-based, Jez, of course.
I said the word. I said instead of distribution, I said distributation. I'm sorry, Tom. Sometimes sometimes I say words wrong.
But yeah, like I think it would have been. I think the CMA might have gone for it a little bit more if they'd picked a British company, because politically might be problematic to have given those rights to a company based in the European Union, because you've got all the Brexit sensitivities there going down. But I don't know if they're going to go for this purely on the basis of how weird and complicated it is.
Nah.
And also,
because it's going through.
Well, let me finish my point.
Yeah. Okay, finish your point.
Well, one of the things they were bitching and complaining about was the fact that they'd have to regulate the complexity here. I don't think this necessarily precludes them from having to regulate that kind of stuff, because they're still going to have to make sure everything's all above board, and potentially Microsoft and Ubisoft have created some sort of mechanism by which they can obfuscate and obscure any sort of preferential treatment between the distributors of these things. And that's not me saying they would do that. That's me saying, if I was a regulator and I was operating in bad faith, which I genuinely believe the CMA to be operating in bad faith, these are the kind of arguments that they could come back with. They could come back with we can't police whether or not these agreements will be honored in good faith. Ubisoft and Microsoft obviously partner up a lot anyway, and they're not really in competition with each other, and Ubisoft is not an adversarial towards Microsoft and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like if I was CMA operating in bad faith, and if I was trying to imagine scenarios where the CMA would be like, this is why this deal's dumb, I can think of a million different ways where the CMA would be like, yeah, we're not doing that. Sorry, delay the deal another year so we can do another load of bullshit to try and stop this from happening. Because I think the CMA just doesn't want this to happen. I don't think they give a shit about the cloud gaming market, because who does? Nobody gives a shit about the cloud gaming market. Not even Microsoft gives a shit about the cloud gaming market. Hence this deal in the first place. They're shipping off cloud gaming rights because they don't care. They know it's not going to go anywhere. They know it's too expensive. They know the server blades they've got would be better used for artificial intelligence right now. And that cloud gaming is this sort of dud, like a sort of a really expensive solution for something that isn't going to take off. It's just not going to take off. It's a cool addition, but it's never going to take off in any sort of serious kind of way. So I think that kind of creates this sort of weird scenario where, the CMA claims they care about cloud gaming because they want to block the deal, and Microsoft has offered to get rid of cloud gaming because they want the deal to go through, because really this is about mobile. It's always been about mobile. This is what it's always been about. But the discourse has never been framed around mobile, because the CMA knows it can't possibly ever win that argument So Microsoft's tried to nullify this, but I don't know if they've just complicated things even further. But then again, it's kind of like, well, what do you do? You know, what is Microsoft's alternative here with regards to cloud gaming stuff and trying to circumvent the CMA's bad faith arguments? What is the alternative? Because if you have a mechanism where it's like Microsoft is like agrees to completely give up cloud, basically say, okay, look, we'll get out of the cloud gaming market completely and give up on cloud altogether if you let this deal go through. You know, that kind of stops them from making use of what they've just invested $70 billion in. You know, and even this deal that they're talking about now, it sort of reminds me of the way Microsoft owns the MechWarrior BattleTech IP, but only as pertains to specific types of video game. They don't own enough of the rights to the MechWarrior universe to actually make MechWarrior games, which is insane. So they have to sort of license them out to Piranha, and that kind of stuff. And like, we couldn't even get them on backwards compatibility because Microsoft isn't sure the legalese is watertight enough. And now we're in a situation where they don't own the full distribution rights of something they're investing $70 billion into. It should never have come to this, Rand. It should never have come to this. And I think they should have just told the UK to go fuck themselves and just close around them.
That wasn't going to happen. I mean, I know the cat might say something, but I think this will get approved. I think they'll beat their chest that they actually got a bigger concession out of Microsoft than the EU did. Like, they were actually able to get a divestment, and Microsoft selling the cloud gaming rights.
Yeah, but then you'll get the EU saying, "Oh, hang on a sec."
Well, yeah, now the EU
we don't want them to
again.
we don't want to give them that win.
So
let's reevaluate the deal from our end again.
Yeah,
because there's this whole political thing between the UK and the European Union. I really think they should have just told the UK to go fuck themselves and say, okay, do your worst. Do your fucking worst. You are a worthless country with a worthless government and a worthless regulatory apparatus, which nobody takes seriously, you know, in terms of like, you actually know what you're talking about. They are like the most tech ignorant administration in the West that we have right now in government. So I think they should have just told them to go fuck themselves. That's what I would have done. And yeah, I'm not a high-paid lawyer, and I have no idea what the consequences of such a thing would have been. But I would have just YOLO'd it, man.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I know you would have. I know you would have.
What are you going to do? Delete Windows off that millions of government PCs? I don't think so, baby. Go fuck yourselves, Britain. That's what I would have done, man.
Well, I mean, nobody had this on their bingo card. Nobody had Ubisoft joining the acquisition in any way, shape, or form. This surprised literally everybody. Nobody had that. Nobody had this. Like, people were like, oh, when this happened before, like when the CMA and people were just like, oh, it's going to get approved on the 29th. Like tomorrow. We were thinking maybe it gets approved tomorrow because that was the date. And it's like, nope. They're like, oh, by the way, we restructured this and Ubisoft's a part of it and we're selling the cloud gaming rights to Ubisoft. And it's just like, wow, this is a lot. And yeah, it just kind of shows that Microsoft doesn't really believe in cloud gaming, at least for the next 15 years, because you're giving up those rights. And Ubisoft's then going to be able to sell those. I mean, because it kind of solves a lot of the CMA's problems. Microsoft's not going to own the rights to the cloud gaming stuff. It's going to be a third party that's going to make deals as they see fit. So it sort of, at least on the outside, solves a lot of the problems that they had with Microsoft owning ABK. It was like, you're too powerful in the cloud market. Well, now they don't have those games. A third party does. That third parties can maybe even give it to non-Windows based stuff. So if they block this version of it, then maybe someone else steps in, the government, or because at this point then it was just like, well, no, like they did exactly what the problems were that you laid out, so you can't block it, right? I don't know. I feel like this sort of solves the problems that they have with it. They're just drunk on power too. It's just all a political thing. They want to seem like they humble big tech,
bro.
So I think they'll accept it, because they'll be like, all right, yeah, we got what we want out of this. Look what we did. Look what we did to Microsoft. We humbled them in their $70 billion deal. So yeah, you can now own it. So whatever. We'll wait and see how this plays out, because Microsoft's extension with ABK only goes to like the 15th of October, and who knows what happens after that if it's all not done by then. So whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Deal's dead, bro. Deal's dead, bro.
Yeah, you're gonna say that. You want to do another hot chip challenge on this one?
Sure, man. Whatever.
Yeah, sure.
The deal's dead, bro.
But
they're gonna let it through. They do not want it to go through, man.
I mean, yes, I agree with you. It's plain as day at this point that the CMA never wanted the deal to go through, and they were going to use it anyway to sort of block it. We've seen it. Yes, I agree with you. They wanted this deal to get blocked,
and they don't want it to get blocked because they care about UK consumers. They're getting some kind of political concession out of America for all this kind of shit. They think they are. They're just doing exactly what the FTC wanted them to do, word for word. It's nothing to do with UK consumers, because if it was, they wouldn't be blocking in the first place.
mm.
You know? So, and that's why it irritates me so much. I don't care if they buy them. Like, I don't think if Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard, all of a sudden all of Blizzard's problems are going to be solved. Like, you'd have to be insane to think that. You know, I don't even think we're going to feel any of the effects of this deal for like at least 5 years, you know. And I think, like, yeah, you might get World of Warcraft on console out of this. And I think you might get like, I don't know, maybe you get rid of Kotick maybe, and hopefully morale will be better, and you know, maybe you get StarCraft out of it. But I kind of think they're working on StarCraft anyway. But honestly, I think Activision is so big, so massive, that they'll be operating separately anyway. And I don't think like there'll be any tangible benefits for Xbox fans apart from like, you know, Call of Duty's DLC not being exclusive to PlayStation for a few weeks.
Outside of all their games on Game Pass?
Well, yeah, of course, but most of their games are either on PC or free to play anyway. Warzone and shit like that. Like, I don't know. How many games do they even make these days?
Not that many.
Oh, maybe we get a bunch of games on backwards compatibility. Maybe we get Sekiro on Game Pass. Sekiro, maybe there's a Sekiro 2 gets made because Microsoft somehow now owns the publishing rights or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't care about the deal going through. But what interests me is just the sheer assholery of the CMA. And yeah,
I will say
the bad faith.
People are saying like, hey, just wait, just watch, somebody, you know, Xbox will buy Ubisoft or somebody else will buy Ubisoft. I think this effectively removes Ubisoft off the market, because
Ubisoft kind of need this.
Well, because if somebody came in, if Tencent came in to buy, you know, Overtake and buy Ubisoft, or Sony came in to buy Ubisoft, they'd run into the problems that Microsoft currently has with the deal, because now Ubisoft is going to hold the streaming rights to the ABK games. So if Tencent bought them, you know, I think the CMA would strike. I don't think that even the US government would allow that. But if Sony were to come in and buy Ubisoft, and they would have the streaming rights to ABK and stuff, I think this is like sort of a poison pill that, like, essentially this makes Ubisoft unacquirable.
I don't know though, man, because that assumes that the arguments were in good faith. You know, if the arguments are in good faith, then yeah. But if the reality, my assumption is the CMA doesn't actually give a shit about any of that. I think they'd let Ubisoft get sold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only way the shareholders are going to get a return on some of that stuff.
Yeah. But anyways, let's go over to the wonderful people on Patreon, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
So if you guys enjoyed the show, hit the like button. Please subscribe. If you're new, you can always join us Patreon for these questions at patreon.com/XB2, where you get access to, you know, Xbox 2+1 or Xbox Ultimate when we do them, and you know, the question and answer thread and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, let's get through this. We're a little bit about 3 hours, Jez, so we got about 50 minutes before we got on the show, right? Because it's getting late for Jez. So we have Christopher saying, "Hey, Rand and Jez, what's Xbox's biggest game after Starfield? Hellblade 2?" I mean, it depends. If you're talking about immediately after Starfield,
what was it, right?
No.
No,
I think Hellblade 2 is bigger than Forza Motorsport. I mean, we were talking. I was thinking like, what's the next biggest game after Starfield towards the end of 2024? I was, because I think clearly the next biggest game after Starfield is probably Elder Scrolls 6, right? Like in terms of what's the biggest,
it would be Elder on the same scale.
Yeah, but I was more thinking like at least more like some that would come faster. So we already know Hellblade 2 is next year, and Avowed, and Towerborn, and Forza Motorsport. I think out of those games, I think Hellblade 2 is the biggest. At least for me. I mean, you could look to 2025 and maybe you point to Fable. Fable could be the biggest. It's certainly kind of lining up to be, right?
If they nail kind of what they're going for with Fable, I think that could be really big. I think it would be bigger than Hellblade, personally.
I mean, I think it should be bigger than Hellblade. Absolutely. But in like recent, I think it's Hellblade 2. Sithler says, what was the game you played that you can't wait for Gamescom? I mean, Jez talked about that extensively at the beginning, right? What was the game you played that you can't wait from Gamescom?
Oh, I can't talk about it.
Yeah, I can't talk about it. So, although you did say you were really, really high in Towerborn, so you're looking forward to that next year.
Yeah, Towerborn is definitely, surprisingly, one of my most anticipated games now, because it's the kind of game that I know me and my brother will love to play. The sort of Monster Hunter-esque combat and getting gear and upgrading and, online co-op. One thing they made a big deal about with Towerborn, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it was netcode. They were talking a lot about how they wanted to have really good netcode for the online play, and that's why they had Killer Instinct devs in the team, which was really, really cool that they were dropping Killer Instinct and stuff. So, which is back on the scene now, surprisingly. But yeah, Towerborn, of the games I can talk about, Towerborn was probably my game of the show.
Yeah, we have question here from Silas. When publishers issue codes to content creators, is there an understood expectation that said creator will produce a certain amount of content, or do they really care how much you do? It depends. If you tell them you're going to make something and they give you the code based on the understanding that you're going to make something, at least a video, then that's kind of the expectation, right? I guess what he's asking is like, hey, you got a code for Starfield, right, Jez? And if you don't publish a review on Windows Central, would they be pissed at you, right? Or would they want to work with you again if you're not going to actually make content for it, right?
I think it depends on the size of the outlet. I think like a lot of companies accept the fact that Windows Central we're not IGN, and we kind of have to pick our battles as much as possible. And even when we do pick our battles, sometimes we don't, things slip, like I haven't reviewed Baldur's Gate yet. I got a review code. Well, actually, we got review codes for Baldur's Gate in the team, and we did do a lot of content on it. I actually backed the game on Kickstarter, so I already had an early access code anyway. But did I? I can't remember. But anyway, it's sort of like, I think sometimes they'll be pissed, and honestly, I think like they probably get more pissed at YouTubers if they provide codes and then they don't deliver. But with an outlet like ours, I've never sort of experienced that where an outlet was a PR company was pissed because we didn't deliver content. Because I always say like, we'll try to get it in, we'll try to fit it in. Sometimes I'm just like, I just deny codes. I'm just like, look, we can't fit this in at the moment. We short staffed or whatever, and oftentimes that has been the case over the summer. Yeah, we just do what we can, But
I've never seen one where
it's
anything in there where it's like you have to do this, right? Because you don't have to.
Yeah, they can't do.
You don't have to.
They just
yeah, like you don't have to. They just may not. If you don't do anything, they might not give you a code for the next game. There's nothing
I think, like,
holding you. Like there's nothing stopping you from not doing any content. It's not like you sign something or whatever and you're like, no, I have to do this. No, there's none of that.
I think like if they find a pattern where like, if like say they've given you 3 or 4 codes and you just haven't delivered any content at all, I think eventually they will be like, these dudes are just farming us for keys or whatever.
Yeah.
And that happens. I think that happens a lot in the YouTube scene. But generally, we only accept codes for things that we are going to do content on. And we usually pick one game and then go really hard on it for a few weeks. Right now, we're going hard on Armored Core and a certain space game. We did a review for Sea of Stars, but we're probably not going to cover any other game between now and Cyberpunk 2077 DLC. It's just going to be 100% Starfield, the Baldur's Gate, and then maybe news about
What about Mortal
upcoming
Kombat
Xbox games.
Or Payday
Well, actually,
or Liza P?
Yeah. Funnily enough, I did just hire someone specifically to cover Mortal Kombat because Miles Dompier has left Windows Central.
Yeah, he's working for Ilphonic now.
Yeah, he's working for Ilphonic, who make Ghostbusters Unleashed. Huge congrats to Miles. So we did just take on someone specifically for Mortal Kombat. But we're probably not going to go too hard on that game. Like, I've got the whole team working on Starfield pretty much. Like Brendan,
As you
Samuel, and Rebecca. Like, we all sort of knee deep.
I got the whole team working on Starfield too. Just me. The whole team's on it. Just me.
Yeah.
Achievement says, do you think there's a clause in the Ubisoft Cloud contract that if they get bought out by, say, Tencent, cloud rights return to Microsoft, or that they have to sell the rights to another party for the remainder of 15 years?
I don't think so, because, like, Microsoft and Tencent have a pretty damn good relationship, considering the fact that they're the two sort of... The business models are both so aligned. It's easy to think of them as like these arch nemesis kind of rivals and stuff, but they actually have a really good working relationship. And we saw all the sort of the stuff with Riot Games, like they're all in Game Pass, and you can get like the stuff for you can get the stuff for all of Riot's mobile games for free with Game Pass. So you can unlock all the characters and stuff like that. And I'll tell you why that is, Rand. And this is what I believe. I think it's like an enemy of my enemy is like my friend kind of thing. Because I think like ultimately what both Tencent and Microsoft want is an end of the Google Apple duopoly when it comes to payment methods on mobile. They want a world where there can be competing app stores and they have a method to not give Steam a cut, not Steam, but Apple a cut, a 30% cut. So I think like after the deal closes with ABK, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tencent and Microsoft work even closer together, especially on mobile, especially to explore this potential of like a mobile gaming store that could take on the iTunes and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see them work closer together. So no, I don't think there's a clause like that, but hey, I could be wrong. But Tencent is not the enemy.
Well, Tencent also I think owns like something like 10 or 15% of Ubisoft anyways.
Yeah, they're an investor.
So
I think Microsoft and Tencent are going to work together to take down Apple and Google. I might write that editorial. That's funny.
True Iron Leg says, if you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what would it be? And hope you gents have a great week. Rand, we know your pick is Pokemon. Game for the rest of your life? I mean, I don't know.
Warcraft.
I don't know.
Warcraft, because I don't think it's ever going away.
It would have to be like a multiplayer game, something you could get somewhat of a different experience every time and not a single player game. So
PUBG.
I was thinking PUBG, but I haven't played PUBG in so long. Maybe it would be like Call of Duty or something. Because I couldn't imagine being like, no, it's Mass Effect. But how sick would you be of Mass Effect if you played it for the 15th or 20th time? It would have to be something dynamic.
Yeah, just play World of Warcraft, bro.
No. Astronzo says, have either of you ever been in a fist fight in real life?
Oh, many.
Jez gets in those brawls, bro.
Nah, it's just it's what my school was like, man. People just fighting all the time, and gangs and shit. That's what my school was like. So yeah, quite a lot. Too many to count, probably.
I was in a fist fight, yeah, but it's been a long time. That was like 8th grade, freshman year of high school.
How old are you in 8th grade?
14, maybe 13, around that age.
Oh, right.
Birdman says, do you guys think Starfield, assuming it's good as we hope, has the potential to really sell an impactful amount of consoles? I wonder with Phil making
Yes.
that comment in the Kind of Funny interview saying that Starfield wouldn't sell consoles or potentially be proven wrong. Who knows? Well,
I think it's already been proven wrong because if you look on Amazon, Amazon actually tells you how many. It tells you sales trends now for consoles.
Yeah, but
So,
that
like,
wasn't.
You can actually see that it's
But
been
that
going
wasn't
up
actually
and up
Phil's
and up.
comment. It was like even if Starfield's 11 out of 10, they're not going to out console Sony, saying that they won't sell more than Sony. Which I don't know if you did see the MPD data that they released today, where Sony's 5% above where the PS4 is, and the Xbox Series X and S is 10% behind the Xbox One in the same time frame. That's not good.
No, it's not.
Especially, I would even dare go to say that's kind of embarrassing for Xbox. Yeah. Like, I get the stock stuff, but they specifically put out a console to hit that mass market price at $299. And if you were to tell me that with that console, the two console strategy, that they would be tracking behind the Xbox One 3 years later, I'd be like, well, then that strategy was a failure, and there's just not a lot of demand behind the Xbox consoles, which, to be fair, there really wasn't in 2022, right?
No.
So to be 10% behind the Xbox One in the US, that needs to change. And yeah, hopefully, like, all the games coming out, and they're all good, and Xbox has a really respectable library, can start to change that. But I did not expect that to happen. Because it wasn't. It was ahead of the Xbox One for the first 2 years, essentially. It wasn't until the end of last year where all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it fell behind. Nobody wanted the Series S, and you couldn't find a Series X. And now it's behind the Xbox One, which was a console everybody laughed at and nobody wanted. It was a console that they had to do a price cut within the first 6 months, from $500 to $499 to $399, and remove Kinect because of the problems it was having. Right? People still kind of laugh at that system and the disparity between it and the PlayStation 4. To see the PlayStation 5 with its problems of stock it had the first couple years, and now that it's pacing 5% ahead of the PS4 in the same time frame, it's like, well, yeah, I don't know. Like, something needs to change here, because clearly the whole point of putting out a $299 console is so you can sell lots of them and sell more than the Xbox One. And that doesn't seem to be the case. So something needs to change.
Yeah, I've heard that Microsoft is projecting growth for the future. One of the sort of behind the scenes conversations I had at Gamescom was about this specific topic. I think it is just an issue of content, I think. And I do think Starfield's going to have a meaningful impact on sales, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Governor Grimm says Xbox folded on allowing Larian to launch BG3 without split screen on the Series S. Larian has said they will continue to try to get it to work on the S. Suppose Larian never gets split screen to work on the Series S. What do you think happens to the parity of the Series S and X when it comes to the big publishers? Probably nothing, because they're the big publishers, right?
Mm.
And they have the support studios and all that stuff. So I would imagine nothing really changes between that and the Xbox and the big publishers. Maybe there's some impact into independent developers, which is what Larian is. They're not beholden to the stockholders and all that stuff like the big publishers are. So I don't really think much changes, honestly, with them.
Yeah.
Donataku says, after Starfield scores a 99 on Metacritic and is named the definitive space RPG, how will Outer Worlds 2 stand out? In the wake of this behemoth, how can a much smaller scale first-person RPG differentiate itself and find a way to shine?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, and I don't think we can really answer that until we can talk about Starfield in full, right?
Yeah, maybe. But, like, if we just assume that, let's look at the differences between, say, the Outer World and, say, something like Fallout, right? I think, like, one of the things that I think Obsidian does probably really well is this sort of... I think they'll build a tighter experience, for one thing. I don't think maybe you won't get the sprawling open world, the full-blown open world that you are getting. The sandbox aspect is obviously... I think it will be pared back in Obsidian's game. But I think the trade-off is it'll be a tighter experience. People who want that. I've been speaking to people this week who are just like, I don't want to play Starfield because it's too big, And I think like for those people, I think Outer Worlds will have a place as a sort of an experience that actually ends. So, if we look at games like Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 and Skyrim, which people have been playing for 10 years, like no one's playing the Outer Worlds for 10 years because it's not a sandbox. So I think like they can focus more on creating cinematic moments, focus more on creating a pacing that's more befitting of a cinematic game. And I think like that's how they could differentiate themselves. And also Obsidian writing just kind of stands for itself,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. Maybe we can talk about that after we can talk about Starfield, and because
I mean, yeah, I can give more context.
It's an interesting question because Outer Worlds 2, what Outer Worlds 1 was, yeah. So maybe some time in between, like if Outer Worlds 2 is not coming till 2025, maybe the 2 years gap is more than enough time to have people forget about Starfield for the most part, and maybe enjoy a different take on the space RPG. We'll see.
Well, people like how does Outer Worlds differentiate itself from Fallout? Because they are superficially kind of similar, and they did say the Outer Worlds is our take on Fallout and stuff, but it was also their take on Mass Effect with the way the companions work and you got the ship and all that kind of stuff. So I do think there's plenty in the universe of the Outer Worlds, which is, it's a little. I think like with Starfield, like if you watch the public trailers for Starfield. It's very, the whole Massapunk idea is that of hardcore realism, right? I don't think Outer Worlds really airs on hardcore realism in the same way, but
yeah, you could be right. We have Elijah saying, for Jez, did the Xbox crew mention an Elite Series 3 controller coming in the near future? And by the way, how is Stalker? Well, Jez talked about Stalker already. He said it was needed more time in the oven. Rough. But I would imagine they didn't talk about a Series 3 controller, right?
No, they did not.
Yeah, so negative on that one. It's quite small, but smells like a big one. Says, hey Rand, I finally finished watching The Bear. I didn't actually compete season 2 because I realized I never want to visit Chicago or eat the food there. Hey, what? Like they say, come for the food, stay because you got murdered. Anyways, lots of talk about which dev MS will acquire next. What if they grab Platinum and leave Square Enix out in the cold? Lots of talk recently about how Final Fantasy 16 sales being diminished by Sony exclusivity. Acquisitions are always tough, bro. You never know. I mean, nobody's predicted Bethesda or nobody predicted ABK and nobody predicted Sony buying some ads do nuts. Like, who did Sony just buy? PlayStation just buy? Some, like, headphone manufacturer or something?
Yeah,
right?
Audi's nuts.
Yeah. So it's tough, too tough to say. I mean, maybe they have some targets. Maybe you could say, one of the smaller devs they're looking at before or something. Maybe they want to do something with Embracer because of the problems Embracer's going through. But who knows? Platinum, they want to be bought. I mean, they've said so as much. So, Logan says, "Hey guys, hope all's well. Have any idea what's happening with Project Mara? Been ages since Ninja Theory said anything about it." Yeah,
I think they're all in on Hellblade right now.
Yeah, I agree. There's no reason to talk about Project Mara when your next game is Hellblade. They'll talk about Project Mara after all the Hellblade stuff has died down. But I would imagine probably most of that team at Ninja Theory is all in on Hellblade 2 to get it shipped for 2024.
I agree.
Yeah. Sierra 11 Kevin says, "Hi guys, I was very hopeful on the Xbox Game Pass family plan as it would have worked well for my family. But that could be dependent on cloud gaming being an option. It feels like there is a de-emphasis on cloud though, outside of families with multiple devices and multiple Xbox Game Pass accounts already, which is probably a much lower use case. I'm not sure what value a family plan could now bring. Do you believe the family plan will be shelved for a while now?"
That's a really good question. Obviously, like for those who don't know, Microsoft had family plan running test in, I believe, Ireland and Colombia, I think, off the top of my head. And then they shut that plan down, and they were like, they gave the people who were on the plan like a little benefit, like I think some from xCloud Time or something like that. So yeah, they shut it down, and it could be that they shut it down because the economics don't work, and they could have just been like, you know what, this is going to bankrupt the platform or something, and stuff like that, and maybe it won't come back. But I kind of feel like if it was not going to ever come back, I kind of feel like they would have said so. I kind of feel like they would have been less like, yeah, look, we can't do this. We're not going to do it. But they did leave the door open, but maybe they wanted to be ambiguous on purpose, so like people would shut up about it and just wait. It's really hard to say, but I'll try and get some more details about it because it was an absurdly good deal, and I think they kind of Microsoft's all about growing Game Pass right now. So like the whole question is, does this grow Game Pass? Will this grow Game Pass and all that kind of stuff? And if the answer to that question was no, then they probably scrapped it on that basis. But
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that. I thought maybe it would be ready by the time Starfield comes out, but then again, they did just remove the $1 option for, hey, join Game Pass for $1. That's gone. Probably because of Starfield is releasing, so you don't want someone to play that for $1. Plus, the trial was only for 14
Just
days
after
instead of 30, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're
They should just
experimenting
leave
with
that going
stuff.
instead of-
Maybe they, maybe we see the family plan next year. I don't know. Highlander, member for 11 months, says, "Happy birthday, Rand. Jez, playing World of Warcraft on ROG Ally is great. I was playing World of Warcraft BG3 in my Xbox games with my friends when I was in the hospital." Yeah, people
That's
really
awesome.
love the ROG Ally, and even a lot of people
ROG
are talking
Ally is so sick.
very highly about the Logitech G Cloud. So
Yeah, the G Cloud's really good. Like the hardware's good. Yeah, it's cloud, and yeah, it's $300, or I think it's $300 off the top of my head. So it's not cheap device, but it's got this huge screen. It's got great triggers, got great sticks. It's so light, and the battery life is monstrous. So like, if you are enthusiastic about cloud gaming, the Logitech G Cloud is easily the best device to get, if you value it that much. But just during the show, Lenovo's Legion Go just fully leaked. Evan Blass, a prolific PC and mobile phone leaker. He just leaked the whole video spot for the Lenovo Legion Go, and it's a huge boy. It's like 8 inches, 800 grams apparently, which is pretty heavy. It's like Steam Deck sort of size, but that screen is huge, man. It's bigger than the ROG Ally, but and it also has a trackpad. This is more like a Steam Deck, but man, I'm really curious what the price is going to be. I'm gonna guess it's not going to be cheap. I can see it being like $50 or something.
Adam F, member for 22 months, says, "Happy belated birthday, Rand. I recently got a PC and am so happy to have Game Pass. Love the show and you guys. Leave a like, y'all. Yeah, if you guys are still listening, make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button too. Appreciate it." Ralph Wiggum, happy birthday, Rand. Can't wait for both you and Jez's Starfield review. Yeah, Thursday is going to be interesting day. Very, very, very insane with all the reviews and everything dropping. And considering all the hype around Starfield now, it's gonna be crazy come Thursday. Tom says, "Do console sales matter as much with PC and cloud in the mix for Xbox?" They don't matter as much, but they still matter, right?
Yeah, they don't matter as much. Like, you look at like how Sony's doing compared to Microsoft right now. Sony's kicking Microsoft's ass, but in console. But like, when you look at revenue, it's not so dire, you know.
Well,
So-
the revenue between the two is kind of, it's like 15.
As you say,
it's like 15 billion to 25 billion or whatever. I mean, there's a big gap there.
There's a gap, but it's not dire. It's not like
Sure, and the gap will
it's-
be
it's not-
closed with ABK. It'd be like this, roughly the same, right?
Yes. So yeah, Microsoft is projecting growth to its shareholders, and one of the ways Microsoft sort of maintains its share price is to have very good projections. If Microsoft is projecting growth, then odds to reason is that they're probably going to get growth. It's oftentimes when companies miss their growth that we see the share price go down aggressively, and that's what happened with Embracer Group. Like, Embracer Group predicted growth based on a verbal agreement with reportedly Saudi Arabia, and that agreement didn't happen. So Embracer Group got abandoned by their investors because the investors were like, these guys don't know what they're doing. You know, you said there was going to be growth, and now there's no growth. So
Yeah.
So Microsoft invests a lot in having good projections, and yeah, I think the next 2 years are going to be exciting for Xbox growth. Personally,
Mav says in the super chat, "Happy birthday, Rand! It's Starfield week. If ABK deal doesn't go through, I will suffer through beans and toast in honor of Jez." So
Stuffer,
suffer.
That's a reward, man.
People are saying $800 or something for that thing you're talking about. By the way, everyone in chat saying $799.
Oh, really?
That's what people in chat are saying. Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a really good price.
Do
we know its processor?
I don't know, but Jez, we got a lot of super chats to go, or not. We got a lot of Patreon questions to go, and not a lot of time left.
All right,
we're past 3:30, and we got to end this by 4 because I got to go somewhere.
Okay,
and I know you're tired and you got to go to bed, so we got to keep the tangents on a low, you know. Not Skywalker says, Jez, I understand you likely signed an NDA and cannot speak about in detail, but did you get to play certain Affinity's Project Loro? Do you believe this to be different than Suerte? It is obviously not Tatanka. Busy Studio, there are cheers.
Yeah, I didn't get to play it, but I spoke to people who did check out the demo, and they were pretty positive about it. Apparently, the demo was thrown together in a few months, so it's very, very early days for that right now. So I wouldn't expect it to be seen publicly yet.
It'd be interesting to see who picks that project up, because they're shopping at the publishers, right?
Yeah, that's why it's there, I guess.
Yeah.
Clearly, Microsoft hasn't picked it up, so. But people were very positive about it. People that I spoke to, especially since the demo was sort of very early conceptual kind of stage, and it was thrown together in a matter of months, apparently. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to see that publicly for a while yet. Probably needs to get some publisher on board, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Suerte. It was not Suerte.
Sean Kramer says, if I find somebody to mod Peppa Pig into Starfield, can you use it as gameplay for the stream? I mean, Jez would have to record it, but we'll see. I mean, Starfield
mod Peppa Pig into what? Starfield?
Into Starfield, yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, I suppose.
Jay Foley, curious on how game reviews work. Do you guys still get achievements when playing games under embargo? I was curious to see the Starfield achievements, but I noticed not even you or Rand have the achievements on your account. It depends, is all I'll say, because I can't really say anymore. Some games, you'll get the achievements. Other games, you won't. It just depends.
Yeah, it depends how the review program's being set up. Microsoft's end, I think. Well, the developer's end. There's multiple different ways that a developer could deliver a review build, but we can't talk about Starfield specifically at the moment.
Lee Sanders says, hope you guys both had great weekends. Spent mine finishing Immortality and Tinykin, both great games, and leave Game Pass on August 31st. So now I'm more of a casual gamer, not crazy at getting all the achievements. Where do you stand on these? Will you play a game over and over to get 100% now, or are you happy with just getting the core ones? Looked at my achievement percentage, and I'm currently at piss poor 35%. I used to, when I was still kind of in it, I would play everything until I was 100%. If that required 5 playthroughs, I'd play 5 playthroughs. Now, I don't really particularly care too much. If it's a game I really like, maybe I'll go for it more than others. Like, I stopped at Jedi Survivor, and I didn't do all the collecting stuff. But normally I would have. So, yeah. I know Jez doesn't give a shit, so.
No, I do not.
Yeah, Gucci Cheese. Hey guys, my question this week is, do you have a game that you love that reviewed poorly? For me, it's Custom Robo for the GameCube. Love that game, but I found it as a 65 on Metacritic. You have anything that stands out to you, Jez?
That's a good question. I usually never look at review scores ever. Like, even before I was a journalist. One of the reasons I don't do that is I don't like other reviewers' opinions to affect mine or style or whatever. So I just don't read any articles from anyone else, ever. But historically, I didn't read reviews just because I'm lazy. I don't know, off the top of my head, a game that reviewed badly that I like. But sometimes there's been World of Warcraft expansions that reviewed badly that I still ended up putting thousands of hours into. I think Fallout 76 wasn't as bad as people made it out to be, personally.
I personally, I can't think of a game that I really liked that reviewed poorly off the top of my head, so I'm sorry. Maybe, definitely not anything this year. I just can't think of one. I'll try to think of one, but I just can't right now. Raj says, do you think Ubisoft Cloud Deal will include reciprocal clauses to get their games on Game Pass? I'd very much like to see the Star Wars Outlaw game come with our subscription. I doubt it. I doubt you'll see Star Wars Outlaw come to Xbox. I don't know. I think people get caught up in this whole reciprocal clauses. Like, if Xbox was putting their games on Switch, Xbox gamers would be like, well, what do we get out of it? Well, it's like, you don't get anything out of it. You get the ability to play those games on Switch, right? And I know people bring this up with Ubisoft Cloud. It was like, hey, well, what do we get out of it? Nothing. This is Microsoft's way of trying to pass the deal. There's not going to be a reciprocal clause. Microsoft is selling the cloud rights to Ubisoft. Ubisoft's not suddenly going to be like, hey, you can have our games in your cloud too. At least I don't think that's how it's going to work. You know, I still think the ABK games will be in xCloud because Ubisoft will be able to sell the rights to other entities. So they could sell them back to Microsoft, license them rather, so those games could be on xCloud, and they could also be on Luna, and they could also be on PlayStation Plus. If those, third parties were willing to pay the price to whatever Ubisoft is wanting to sell it for. And theoretically, somebody could pay Ubisoft for exclusivity if the money was enough and Ubisoft agreed to it, right? I mean, theoretically, Luna could come in there and offer so much money to get those games exclusive on cloud, but it's just cloud streaming. So when I saw this, I was just kind of like, it's cloud streaming. I don't give a shit about cloud streaming, so whatever. I don't care, How
embarrassing would it be for Microsoft if they couldn't have Call of Duty on xCloud and it was exclusive to Luna?
I mean, I don't think they'd care. I mean, here's the bigger question.
I think they'd care.
Here's the bigger question. How much did Ubisoft pay Microsoft for the cloud streaming rights? How much is that worth?
$10.
$10, you think? Okay. You don't think it's worth a couple bills?
I don't think they paid very much for it.
You don't think they paid very much for it? $70 billion acquisition, cloud streaming rights, and you don't think they paid what, a ham sandwich and a Coke for them?
I think they might have paid a Reuben and a Mountain Dew.
Okay. Tyler says, "Hey guys, what is your favorite past Bethesda Game Studios game, and how many hours did you sink into it?" I mean, I have over 100 hours in Skyrim. I think maybe 120. I have probably 80 hours in Fallout 3 and probably 70 hours in Oblivion. And I didn't play Fallout 4, so I would say my favorite Bethesda game is Skyrim.
My favorite Bethesda game is probably Fallout 3. I would say. I think I put more time into Fallout 3 than any of their other games, I would think. But I did put a ton of time into Fallout 4, even though I bitched about it being linear and stuff. The base building, I have just loved the base building stuff in that, so much. I built really extravagant bases. I spent a ton of time doing it. And I don't know why, because you don't really get anything for doing it. It was just fun, having this creative canvas, apocalyptic creative canvas. Really enjoyed that. So I am a Fallout series guy before Elder Scrolls, I think, but I did put a ton of time into Skyrim as well. It's just, and I've tried to come back to it a few times recently because with all the extra additions they made, but I just find it to be it's just a little bit too dated for me now. Even with all the upgrades I've done, even though they added fishing, it's a little bit too dated for me to get into. But I do want to go back and play Fallout 4.
Tommy says, any chance of a private lobby, Xbox 2 lobby, and the new COD hosted by you guys? Warzone or multiplayer lobby? Doesn't have to be COD, but seems to be the most popular one. Streamers, creators get most of the audience. Happy late birthday, Rand, and go Orioles. I mean, Jez is the one that plays multiplayer in Call of Duty, so you'd have to ask him. I do not.
I barely play multiplayer in Call of Duty these days. Kids are just so sweaty and twitchy, and I mean, there's so many people with mouse and keyboard now, and it's just man... There's there'll be a dude in the lobby with 40 kills and 0 deaths, popping a nuke and stuff. I just don't like the way Call of Duty is these days. So I usually just stick to Overwatch where it's more balanced for mouse and keyboard and shit.
Maybe
I'd be happy to
maybe someday soon we could have a game thing or something. But it's just mine and Jez's schedules are so opposite of one another.
Yeah,
but
time zones.
We'll try to work on that and talk through it. Omen says, happy belated birthday, Rand. While I'm very envious that you both got to play Starfield early, are you in any way saddened that you have to play so much of the game so quickly? And also can't participate as much in the hype cycle of us regular non-Ivory Tower players?
I do regret that, actually. I do regret it. I'm sort of like... It's kind of cool for Starfield because they have given us a lot of time. The review program started a long time ago. And I've been able to cover Gamescom, and I still think I'm gonna have plenty of time over the next few days to get the review done. But yeah, I kind of do miss just enjoying the review cycle of games, the hype cycle, and it's kind of one of them first world problems, kind of, right?
Yeah.
This job's also amazing, so.
No, I'm fine with it. Trixar for Trey says, hope I'm not too late. Almost forgot. Happy birthday, Rand. With Tokyo Game Show next month, do you expect any Xbox Final Fantasy announcements? No, I don't think so. I think it's too early for any of those. I think it's too early for Final Fantasy 16. I think it's too early for Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
Think so?
Final Fantasy 7 Remake? I think so, yeah. I don't think Sony wants that announced until, at least until the new one is available, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's too early, but I would love to be wrong. That'd be an interesting announcement.
Well, nobody expected Phil at the Final Fantasy 14 event anyway, so who knows, man? I think it could happen.
I just have the feeling Final Fantasy 14 is going to be the first one that launches on Xbox before they announce their next game. I mean, Phil even said in the interview with Destin they kind of got to do it at their own cadence, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Parker says, Rand and Jez, people talk about Tango doing Evil Within 3 as their next project. However, do you think they're just setting themselves up for a Mirage as Catalyst situation where a vocal minority is asking for it, but the majority really don't? As Evil Within 3 would be the third entry in the series, I hear no one talking about wanting.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with that, to be honest. As someone who does like the Evil Within as a franchise, I really, especially the first one. I wasn't a huge fan of the second one. They went too hard on stealth, I think, for the sequel. But I think you might be right. There probably isn't as big of a fandom for that game as, I don't know, Xbox fans would hope. Even though, I feel like the characters are kind of iconic, and Safehead, or well, the Executioner, I suppose his real name is, but everyone calls him Safehead. If you Google it, Google Trends. And I think with a bigger budget, maybe they could reach a bigger audience, and it could become something more than it previously was. But I think you could be right. I think Hi-Fi Rush is the play, as much as it pains me to say that.
Well, we know they have two teams, right? You have the team that did Hi-Fi Rush and the team that did Ghostwire Tokyo, right? So you could do both games. You could do Evil Within 3 and Hi-Fi Rush 2, right? I don't necessarily think it's one or the other, unless you're saying you need John Johannes to make Evil Within 3.
I think he's talking about is it actually worth doing, because is there anyone who actually wants it outside of a sort of...
Well, I mean, if there was any time to do it, it would be now, with horror going through a resurgence recently.
Yeah.
It would be now. If you're ever going to do it, it's now, right?
I agree.
But I do think Hi-Fi Rush 2, if you were choosing which one to do, I think it's Hi-Fi Rush 2 over Evil Within 2, because I think Hi-Fi Rush hasn't hit its ceiling, right? It has room to grow, where I sort of feel like Evil Within has hit its ceiling, and Hi-Fi Rush is just at its beginning, right? It has potential for big growth as a franchise. Saucy Mod says, happy birthday, Rand. My daughter also has a birthday yesterday. Well, happy birthday to her. Don't really have a question this week, but I do want to thank you two for always putting on a great show. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And Mixed Radis, Seeker of Hearts, says, hello, guys, and happy 97th Rand. You guys probably mentioned this during the Baldur's Gate 3 talk, but what do you guys think about the Series S? I think it is fine, and this was a special case and not the norm. I've seen some people even say to do cloud for the Series S, not from the usual sources. Thank you and take care. I mean, clearly it is a special case, right? This hasn't happened before, so it's special. The question is, will it remain a special case or will it become the norm? I don't think it becomes the norm. I do think there's a lot of concerned trolls out there that are like, well, this means all the publishers and all the developers are going to be like, we don't want the Series S anymore. And they were pretty emphatic in the interviews that Series S ain't going away. Right? It's just maybe they bend the rules on some features here and there. So I think Baldur's Gate remains a special case. I don't think it's something that you'll see happen all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
So that is all of our questions that the wonderful people over at Patreon have for us. You can join Patreon as well. Patreon.com/XB2. You should put up a poll there, Jez, or just a discussion of if people want 2 Xbox 2 plus ones instead of Ultimate.
I'll put a poll up.
But to even see if we even have the bandwidth to do it, because sometimes it's just me getting these guests. Jez doesn't lift a finger to get these guests. You know what I mean? Well, you did for Colin and you did for Florian, but sometimes it's hard getting. I mean, I wouldn't be against it if that's what the people want.
It must be so hard being Rand, man. Having to lift one finger per week while I have a full-time job. When's the last video you made, bro?
I don't need to make videos, bro. I was going to make some videos about the Gamescom stuff, but Starfield, bro. Make some videos. I got Starfield I need to play.
You gonna make a video about Starfield?
Possibly. I haven't decided.
Must be so nice. Not having to work for a living.
What do you mean?
Must be so nice. What do you mean? What I mean?
J Train says, "Happy birthday, Rand." Jez, did you hear anything at Gamescom about an update to the achievement system?
Nope. That's a lie actually. It's basically what we expected. I did talk to someone about it, briefly, and we talked about how it's something they'd like to do, and they like achievements, and it's just about bandwidth and picking battles and stuff like that. We talked about how we talked about earlier how one of the opportunities Microsoft has is with devices like the Asus ROG Ally, right? Windows is a damn mess on a handheld. So if you're Xbox, if you're Microsoft Gaming, because that's what the division is called now, it's Microsoft Gaming. You're Microsoft Gaming and you see your growth potential being on PC, where a lot of achievements sort of either just don't exist or they're sort of second fiddle. A lot of those dev resources kind of have to go first towards fixing the Windows shell for the handhelds like the Asus ROG. I think if people keep making noise about it, I think they will eventually do it. But it's just a case of picking the battles, I guess.
All right. Looking to see if we actually did have an extra question. Is this an extra question? Yeah, I think so. I think somebody got one in here. Oh wait, no, this is the wrong one here. My bad. Or maybe we got a question here. Jez, somebody sent me a thing where it says Starfield's now the biggest game on Steam.
Yeah, I did see that. It's the #1 selling game on Steam right now.
Yeah. Telling you, bro.
These reviews.
Million.
They shouldn't have bothered doing reviews, man. They should have just
million
been
concurrent, bro. Million concurrent. Easy.
Yeah, we'll see.
Easy.
We'll see.
So yeah, I think that's everything we wanted to talk about. So I want to thank you guys for your support, all the happy birthday wishes. I see them in chat, all the comments in the Patreon and all that sort of stuff. It really means a lot to me. Lot of people wish me happy birthday, which, does make you feel good about yourself, right? And so we will be back on Friday, September 1st, regular time, to talk a lot about Starfield, clearly, because the embargo will be up. And, maybe, there's a lot of people that are playing it. Maybe they jump into the podcast to give their own thoughts too, Certainly possible. Maybe Paris can stop by for a few minutes, or maybe Gaz or somebody who else is playing it. But yeah, we have Keyshawn Chompson, member for 20 months. Happy birthday, Rand. Appreciate you. And, well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. This was episode 280. Only 20 more to go for 300. And we will see you again on Friday. Love you guys. Make sure to use the checkout code for Manscaped XB2 to get 20% off. And check out the Patreon if it interests you. Patreon.com/XB2. Everything's in the description. We'll be back on Friday. Starfield. It's all going to be about Starfield, baby. It's all going to be about Starfield. Oh, man. Anyways, until then, this has been Rand and Jez. And we're out of here. Keep it gaming, guys.
Take care, everybody. And XB2 at Manscaped.
Later.